Test, test, 1, 2. Can you hear me? All right.
We have one individual who should be coming, Sharon Ferraro, and Peter Gordon is on the line, and he's here remotely. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Just before we start, I just want to make a few comments. Last week, we had 2 graduations, in high school graduation, and we had the middle school graduation. It was a beautiful evening and a beautiful but very hot following morning. Dan, I would think we could say that. It was terrific. Kudos to Mike Domastro and his crew, who fields were beautiful, track was beautiful, the whole evening and morning was great. So we're coming to the end of the school year, and I, on behalf of the board, would like to thank Lisa, Tina, Tracy, Phil, Mike, Joe, and everyone else in the administration, and in particular, I'd like to thank our 4 principals, Megan, Dan, Patty, and Laura, for yet one more successful school year. Looking forward to the fall. And just one other announcement: when we convene in January, if we convene after January 7th, there'll be a new author who's a member of the Board of Education, Mr. Hempner, who is an author, and his first book is coming out, which we're all going to have to read, especially those who speak in public, which is called don't say how to communicate effectively to live a better life. And so I'm looking forward to a book signing ceremony in our first meeting in January. Congratulations, Jed. I think that's fantastic. So the first item on the agenda, the third item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. The first set of minutes is to approve the minutes from our May 20th, 2024 Weston Board of Education regular meeting. Are there any changes? If not, can I have a recommendation to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the May 20, 2024 meeting minutes.
All those in favor? Or is there a second? Excuse me. Is there a second? There you go. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next
Aye.
item. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 3rd, 2024 Weston Board of Education special meeting. Are there any changes or comments to those meetings? No, minutes, excuse me. If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the June 3rd, 2024 special meeting minutes.
Second? Is there a second? Thank you, Bernadette. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And the third is approval of the minutes from the June 3rd, 2024 Weston Board of Education executive session.
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the June 3rd, 2024 executive session minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Can you say them?
I was going to move your microphone closer before saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, I've already have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Aye.
The next section is public comment, and our practice is to read a statement ahead of public comment. I see there are a number of people here. We have a 20-minute limit to public comment. If it looks like we're going beyond that and more people want to speak, then the board can take a vote to waive that 20-minute limit. But let's see where we go, and then if need be, we'll waive the limit, or I'll ask the board to waive the limit, and we'll keep going forward. So the board welcomes the opportunity to hear from members of the public about matters concerning Weston Public Schools. Public comment is an important chance for the board to receive input and feedback from our school community. We listen attentively to all comments shared. While we value and pay close attention to public comment, it is our practice not to respond substantively or sometimes at all during public comment. There are several reasons for this. First, engaging in a discussion on non-agenda items could violate the board's obligations to comply with the Freedom of Information Act. Second, the board or the administration may not be prepared to discuss certain matters raised in the first instance by a public comment. Third, the board develops its meeting agenda carefully to ensure that the board addresses matters that are pressing or relevant at the time of the meeting. We encourage members of the public with specific questions, concerns, or complaints about our schools to reach out directly to Superintendent Barbiero, and you may email the board at our email address, which is boardofelucation@westonps.org. Additionally, details on public comment at board meetings can be found on our website, which is www.westonps.org. With that, would anyone like to make a public comment? Jody, if you would give the...
Thank you. Please just step forward, state your name, and state your street address, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
My name is Janine Lombardi, and I live on 320 Good Hill Road. I currently have a rising junior and an older child that graduated last year. My older son was a music student for 7 years through middle school and high school. I chaperoned music in the parks. I attended several Halo Award nights where our orchestra was not honored year after year, and have sat in the audience for CMEA regional and state music performances. I have volunteered and was the parent producer over the last 8 years for the middle and high school plays. I share these details with you so you can appreciate how familiar I am with the quality of the music program and the educators who are working with our children. I'm here tonight because 4 out of 9 of the total music educators here in Weston are leaving our district. While I understand the Board of Ed probably does not get involved in personnel issues, the departure of these individuals poses a threat to the quality of our music program and sends a red flag that something is not working in how we've structured things. I know that we want to keep all excellent educators in Weston and that it's inevitable that teachers will move on for better opportunities, but the fact that 4 out of 9 teachers from a single department are leaving at once sends a clear message that someone needs to explore what's going on and ensure that we do not lose additional staff. Has anyone asked these educators what could have made a difference in keeping them here in Weston? A 44% turnover rate in a single department district-wide is significant. 2 of 3 teachers are leaving at the high school. That's a 67% turnover rate. I implore you to look deeper at what is systemically wrong here. A few years back, the administration cut a music teacher from the middle school for the 2022-23 school year, despite no evidence of decline in enrollment, and replaced it with a part-time role. What prompted that decision? This decision put pressure on our teachers to do more with less. We have a 6th grade choir program with 45 students in a single classroom. These students are learning how to read sheet music. It's like a new language. We would never put 45 students in a 6th grade classroom to learn Spanish. So how is this designed for student success? Who sees these numbers and thinks this is acceptable? Has anyone asked the teachers if they think this is acceptable? Is this why they left? How is this putting our students and their education first? I understand that we have had difficulty filling the part-time teaching position after the cuts a few years back. Does a part-time position attract quality candidates? I also understand that Meg Stewart was splitting her time between the high school and the middle school to cover this gap. How does that allow sufficient time for planning and classroom setup? How does this allow a teacher to maintain a presence at either school and make themselves available to students one-on-one as often as the other teachers can? You as a board need to understand if this is ideal. If teachers are set up to fail, our students will fail. As a board, you rely on senior administration to tell you what is best, so I encourage you to challenge what has been in place and make a change to improve what we are clearly failing. Finally, Meg Stewart and Steve Fasoli were outstanding teachers who did a lot for the music program, above and beyond the classroom. Yes, some of this time was compensated with a stipend, but a lot of what they did was not. I don't have time here tonight to share all they did for our students, but I plan to email you all a detailed description of everything we are losing with their departure. As our board, you need to make sure that the people who are tasked with staffing our children's education are using the same quality standard for these positions that we apply to other areas of study. Thank you for hearing my concerns. My questions are meant to cause more critical thinking of how things are being done and how they can improve. Thank you.
Is there somebody else that would like to speak? Thank you. Please state your name and your street address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Robert Rukowski, 8 Blueberry Hill Road. I sit before you today as a concerned parent and a strong advocate for the music and arts education in our school district. First, I want to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of the board and administration in providing a quality education for our children. I am, however, troubled by the recent departure of several teachers from our music department. Those 4, I believe there was at least 3, but now we know it's at least 4. Talented and dedicated educators have departed or are scheduled to, and their loss will have a significant impact on the quality of music education our children receive. These teachers had a profound influence on my children's education. Their passions, expertise, and commitment have fostered a love for music and helped develop their musical skills. The relationships they've built with their students extend beyond the classroom, providing mentorship and support. This situation raises concerns about potential larger issues that we as parents may not be aware of. Music education is a vital component of a well-rounded education. It improves academic performance, enhances critical thinking skills, fosters creativity and self-expression. Music programs provide students with valuable opportunities for social interaction, teamwork, and personal growth. The loss of these experienced music teachers has a serious impact to our school district. The timing of these departures can disrupt the continuity of instruction and create uncertainty for our students and families. So I urge and I ask the board to take immediate action in 4 points. The first one, if you could investigate the reasons behind the teachers' departures and address any underlying issues. Second, actively recruit and hire highly qualified music teachers to fill the vacant positions and as soon as possible. Third, provide adequate resources and support for the music programs to ensure their continued success. And please communicate openly with parents and students about the steps being taken to address this situation. I appreciate your attention to this matter. Please consider the significant impact these teachers have had on our children. Thank you.
Are there others that would like to talk about the music program? Please come up if you'd like to.
My name is Christian Sayawane. I live on 11 Curiosity Lane. I'm also here to talk about the music program, The Departures. I'm a rising senior at Weston High School. I've been a part of the music program here since I arrived in 4th grade, but mostly since band started in 5th. I've had experience with the 3 teachers at the high school, as well as 2 in the middle school and 1 in the intermediate. But I'll talk mostly about Mr. Fasoli. Mr. Fasoli was much more than just a band director. He was responsible for wind ensemble, symphonic band, and concert band. Between these ensembles, he serves as a constant throughout the years of changing classes year by year at high school. He has to deal with the personalities from rambunctious 9th graders to apathetic seniors and smile throughout it. This is just during the day. Wednesday nights, you can see him leading jazz ensemble, which again, recruitment is difficult between all the sorts of sports conflicts that he can tell you about as more and more teams take to practicing at night to such a degree that this past school year, we haven't had a jazz rehearsal in the past 2 months. And that's including the fact that we had a concert in between that gap. But further, he also teaches general music, music theory, and more than just a teacher. He's been a colleague, he's been a friend, he's been a mentor, he's been a voice of reason and honesty as I navigate my high school experience. He's inspired me to pursue music, specifically because it's rewarding and that it's not measured by grades and assignments, but by the joy and connection you can bring to people once you perform and see how they respond to it. It's a pursuit that is, bountiful in many ways. But I'm pretty sure we all understand the importance of music education. That's why we have a program here at all. I just want to stress that these concerns are met and look forward, since this coming year it affects me directly. And of course, it'll affect the future generations as they move through these programs. I would like highly qualified people in these positions. And I'd like us to think about how many people we're thinking of for these duties that are lost. Because of the 3 high school teachers, I've talked to Fasoli's duties. Mrs. Stewart had her orchestra ensembles, as well as running Tri-Am, as well as the pit orchestra, which I can tell you firsthand from this past year was probably 6 hours a week. Broadway scores, it's a big ask, and it's very uncommon to have a student pit. I'm just concerned that it seems we've rested on the idea that a few individuals have been accustomed to doing above and beyond to an exhausting degree, and just that we ask that if we bring in 2 people to replace the 2 that left, if we really expect them to each individually take on 3 huge duties. I speak mostly as a concerned student, but also just as a concerned member of this community. And I hope we prize music for its connecting and uplifting abilities in creating skills and connections and memories and friendships that are lasting much longer than these walls. So please be considerate in this hiring process. Be considerate in why we have so many leaving, so many tenured people. These aren't just new hires that came and went. These are very important mainstays of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
William Mann, Laurel Lake West. I've lived in this community for 18 years almost. We have a lot of kids. They have all come through the Weston schools, and I love this community and I love the school district. You have very difficult jobs, and you have to balance needs of a lot of students. And I'm very aware of it. But I'm also, I didn't grow up in an area that was as nice as Weston, and I didn't grow up in schools that had many programs. And I wrote like a whole bunch of statistics down that I guess I could share with you all on why music programs are so critical to the development of our kids. But I realized that that doesn't necessarily move the needle when you're trying to balance the realities of the needs of a whole community. It's a difficult job. But I'm also uniquely qualified because I'm a musician for a living, and my mother was a teacher and an administrator. And I watched her try to piece together the budgets that anemic budgets that she was given. And I'm thinking of 3 key things. One is Dr. Giersch, Mr. McLaughlin, Mrs. Perlman, Mr. King. These are the music teachers that completely transformed my life. And I was not a kid that fit in so easily because I was athletic, but I wasn't an athlete. And I had access, but I didn't have the luxury of time because my parents worked and I lived with my mom who worked. If a third of our students are engaged in music, and they're not necessarily cut out for sports, and they're not necessarily cut out for some of the other clubs and amenities, what are we saying to them if we start to strip away how we value their gifts, how we put 45 kids in a classroom to learn a language that, frankly, the ancillary benefit to them in math, socially, and interpersonally are so critical? How do we expect well-rounded kids? And I have a daughter who's a rising junior who is very active in the music theater program. I cannot thank Morris, her music teacher, all of the people in the community enough for making space for her to find herself, which is what she did through music. And I have a 9-year-old who's in this district who I'd like her to have the option. But I moved here because this community is amazing, because we have access to so much more than most people. So I think my ask is less the forensic understanding of the whys the district is in the situation it is with retaining great teachers, but to put the task on how to ensure that kids don't see as a word that they use because they're staring at their phones, but give them something to do that's constructive, creative, and that enhances the quality of our community. Anybody here who's ever been to a wedding has heard a wedding song, and any person who's ever been to a graduation has heard that march, and anybody who's been to a Memorial Day parade has heard the sound of a drum. I just don't think we should do anything that jeopardizes those opportunities for our kids to thrive, the kids that maybe aren't the athletes, the kids that maybe aren't the ones who naturally join in. Please make some space and find a way to create a solution so that we don't lose, frankly, the heartbeat of a great education. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there others who'd like to speak about the music program? If not, there's a hand in the back. Jody, where are we on time? Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sari DeVore and I live on Thorpe Drive. I don't have anything prepared. First, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for all of your hard work, dedication. Been living in Weston for 16 years. I have 3 children, a rising junior, a rising 8th grader, and a rising 4th grader. When we moved here, I took my 2 younger ones before my 3rd to all of the wonderful musicals at Weston High School, Weston Middle School, and all I kept on saying to myself was, I can't wait for my kids to come to that point. All 3 of my children are performers. My daughters are in theater, love to act. My son is a drummer. Loves the band, wants to be in the high school band. Miss Stewart, Bertie, tacked him as her drummer for high school in a year. Unfortunately, who knows, hopefully that will happen because he's talented. But I think the world of this community. I think the world of this district. I just pray that everything that could happen will happen to keep this music department, theater department strong and grow. I have heard statistics and facts. Pre-COVID, we kind of like to say, unfortunately, it was a much more robust program. There was theater classes available. There was more arts classes available, acting classes available. Unfortunately, I don't believe, to my knowledge, that there are as many opportunities for kids, specifically in high school. Would be wonderful even in middle school, but I know that's not as common. It's so important to so many. I've reached out to so many parents in the community, and so many parents are concerned. I know there's a lot of parents on Zoom now that are very much concerned about the future and what's going on with the music department, as we all know. There's so many talented performers, musicians, production people, technical people, theater people, everything from all sides of the gamut, from the stage to the back to the costumes, everything. We have to let these children pursue their dreams. They have to be able to have opportunities from Weston High School, from Weston Middle School, from Weston Intermediate School. All the performances this year were fantastic. It was the first time in many years, I think in almost 7 years, for Weston Intermediate School to have a talent show. And there were so many wonderful acts and versatile acts, from a disc jockey to a beautiful pianist. Let's not let these children down. We have so many talented students here. We have so many parents and administrators who are so talented and so passionate about this community. We need to make sure that our program, the Weston Music Department, is strong and grows and continues to be the wonderful place that we all know and love. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Same topic or new topic?
New topic.
Okay.
So I would like to read tonight a letter onto record from another parent.
Can you please state your name and your
My name is
street
Travis Worrell from 44 Birch Hill Road. And again, I'm reading a letter from another parent that was addressed to the BOE and the WPS administrators. To the members of the BOE and the WPS administrators, I am writing in reference to the public comment made at our last night's BOE meeting on May 20th, 2024. I'm not going to mention names in this email. If you'd like the email, all Board of Ed members do already have it. Speaker 1 and Speaker 2, while I was not able to attend the meeting in person, I listened and watched the live stream of it. At the meeting, Speaker 1 and Speaker 2 referred to the 5th grade students giving a tour at WIS to incoming 3rd grade parents. My daughter recognized Speaker 1 on the live stream and confirmed that she was indeed one of the 5th graders giving her a tour at WIS. She beamed with pride to hear Speaker 1 open her public comment to share her positive experience from the tour. Then soon after, she was stunned and overwhelmed and upset to hear the false statements shared about her and her friend from their tour. She confirmed that she and her friend were asked about their feelings moving to the middle school. She is nervous and scared, but not for the reasons shared by Speaker 1 and later reiterated by Speaker 2's comments regarding the middle school building itself. My daughter never stated the building is dark and broken and was worried because of that. She confirms her friend doing the tour did not make such a comment as well. She did express worry and nervousness around having to change classes throughout the day at school and did state that her and her friend would miss being at WIS. To misrepresent these students' comments and utilize it as an opening, and with the second speaker's closing, public comment for the basis to convey a sense of urgency in considering a new build for the middle school is upsetting and unethical, leading me to share this clarification. The statements made by the 2 5th grade students, shared in both public comments, were grossly misconstrued and falsely represented by Speaker 1 and Speaker 2. My daughter has no opinions of the middle school building itself and is looking forward to her first actual tour of it in the coming weeks. Her worries about the shift to the middle school are developmentally appropriate and are not at all connected to the state of the building itself. Student voices are highly valuable and the accuracy in reporting is just as critical. Kind regards.
Thank you. Would anyone else, like to make a public comment? Okay. Jody, where are we on time? Because we will need a, no. Per topic.
Yeah,
Is this
20 minutes per topic, so
different topic or new topic?
Yep.
Great.
go right ahead.
Sure. No, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa. My name is Melissa Mahan. I just moved to Weston in July. It's a magical place. I'm totally in love. My son is 11 years old, and he was, so brand new to the town, learning how to make friends and being introduced to all of these wonderful teachers. I cannot say enough. We came from what was considered the #1 private school in Manhattan, and this has been tenfold a better experience. So I'm very, very grateful for everyone that I've met here, and I'm sure that you all have a lot to do with the decision-making that goes into who is on staff. One of the most transformational experiences for him was being part of the WIS musical this year. And the reason why I want to shed a little bit of light on this for you as you make your decisions is because I thought one of the other parents made an excellent analogy that I just want to underscore. Kids come, as you know, in all shapes and sizes, and they'll have all different kinds of talents. When it comes to theater, whether you're on the stage or behind the stage, whether you're a musician or an actor or a dancer or any of the things, this is a team sport. And I think it gets overlooked in our society. I don't know if any of you watched the Tony Awards last night, but there was a comment made on television that, we are one of the only civilized nations in the world who thinks that art is optional. Everywhere else, it is essential. And it's not just essential for their development, but it's the other way that children get to experience what it means to be part of a team, right? My kid is never going to play baseball or football or any of those other sports, but he will be part of a team when it comes to creating something that the whole community can experience together. So I just put that out there as a different lens for you to consider the arts through as you weigh some of your choices. And I can't pretend to know all of the details of how we're running this from a business perspective and what the challenges are with replacing these wonderful teachers with what I'm sure will be other wonderful candidates, I hope, that come into our community. But I will offer that if maybe there can be a little bit more transparency and communication about the challenges that we're facing as a community, there are a number of us on the sort of parental side that have a great deal of experience in the arts and that can bring a lot of solutions to the table if someone could just clearly outline exactly what the needs are and how we might work together to supplement them to get us to the desired result. It's not all on you. I think we can work together. So,
Thank you. Was there one more?
We've reached the maximum on the music content, if that's what if anybody's speaking
Are we
on that.
talking about music?
I still have an API.
I'm sorry?
We're still on music and performing arts. Is that okay?
Why don't we formally take a vote of the board to waive the time limit? Can I have a motion to waive the 20-minute time limit?
To it, David. I move that we waive the 20-minute time limit for
And
this
is there a
topic in
second?
particular.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Amy McCrae. I live on Newtown Turnpike. I am the mother of a rising senior, a rising sophomore, and a fifth grader. So I have children at all three schools that are very pertinent to the performing arts program. I work in the industry. I work in the schools in the industry. I've been a producer at all three of the schools. I have taught through WOW, their theater program, those classes at WIS and Hurlbut. And I did the talent show just the other night. I've seen the exceptional talent of the students in this district. I have worked very closely with all of the teachers that are leaving. 3 of them I've worked very closely with and experienced what they do aside from their job descriptions. In a past life, I did work in human resources and recruitment, so I know what the job descriptions that what we're going to be putting out to pull in teachers in the music department. But I also know the extracurricular dedication that these, 3 people in particular that I know, have done for the program. I have 3 very active performing arts students in my household. I have my daughter here with me tonight that has been on Tri-M in the Honor Society, was looking forward to the next coming year. I'm going to call you out, Avery. Was hoping to be president. Ms. Stewart is the advisor, so it's a big deal to be losing her mentor and her person that she's been working with all of this time. I'm just here to point out that this district it has brought in very good and very strong teachers that have loved our kids and our students as much as the parents have, and I've seen it firsthand. I've seen these people cry at their performances and sat next to me while I cried too. And in order to develop and grow this, we need people to properly be able to dedicate the time and the energy. I think we're all, this day and age, spending a lot of time taking on things, and the people that are leaving took on a lot, and they took them on for our students. And to be able to do the justice to all of the kids that want to do something within the arts, I really feel like, there might be at least 2 to 3 more spots in the activities in the program to round it out. We need to be looking at more than just replacements. Because when these people come in, they have big shoes to fill. There's a lot of activities that are not going to be in that job description, and it's going to be up to them to dedicate their after-school time to run the theater program and bring these children outside and help bring them to the community. I work at Lachap Farm. I have had the Westones so many times come and play, and that's something it's a dedication through Liz Morris. I mean, that woman, if you put her job description out, the scroll would be down, out the doorway. So I just want to bring light to the fact that there's more to look at than just the basic job description of 3, 4, however many teachers there are, and there's just so much more that they do in this program. Like Melissa said, there's a lot of people in this community that are willing to look at our needs and bring this really, rise the arts program instead of watch it go away. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak or make a public comment? Please. Different topic.
My name is Catherine Vidola from Coley Drive. I am the parent of Miles Leroy, who is a rising 5th grader, and Theo Leroy, who is a rising 2nd grader. I'm thrilled to be here today to speak with you about smartphones in our community, specifically in our schools. Candidly, on Friday morning, my planned message for today was very different than it is now. I was intending to be here today, along with many other parents, presenting you with a petition asking you to ban phones in the elementary schools. When we saw the policy changes on Friday afternoon, we celebrated. So our primary message today is thank you. Thank you for prioritizing our children's mental health. I imagine you're facing a lot of pressure with these policies. Know that you have hundreds of parents that are supporting you. I have printouts of the petition that we plan to present today. I want you to be able to read every single name, every parent and every child. I won't read the whole thing, but I do want to read the beginning. As parents in Weston, Connecticut, we are deeply concerned about the impact of smartphones and social media on our children's mental health. Research links these technologies to increased rates of depression, bullying, and suicide among kids. In response, parents of 253 Hurlbut and Wist students have signed the Wait Until 8th pledge, committing to delay giving their children smartphones until at least the end of 8th grade, so until at least high school. This collective action aims to reduce the pressure on kids and parents regarding smartphone usage and creating a safer, kinder community for our children, sentiments which echo the core values of our schools. Currently, 30 to 40% of each grade from kindergarten through 4th grade is participating, which signals a significant community stance against early smartphone use. I wanted to read this to show you the scale of support this initiative has in the lower schools, whose parents and kids will be in the middle school very shortly, and then to the high school. In less than 1 week, 83 families signed the petition on behalf of 146 children. I want to thank you for the policy changes you made for WIS and the middle school, but I also want to recognize that this is a very long war with multiple battles, and to encourage you to keep going and to push further. The largest issues are in the middle school and in the high school. The kids most susceptible to suicide and mental health issues are the ones that have smartphone devices and social media, and those are all over the middle school and high school. I heard a story this weekend about a Weston middle school student that set up an anonymous Instagram account to make fun of other kids. This breaks my heart and creates an enormous amount of anxiety in me as a parent. This morning, Rolling Stone published an article about Snapchat and how it is a feeding frenzy of drug dealing to middle school and high school students. We know that Snapchat is the app of choice for Weston children. And this morning, the Surgeon General called for warning labels on social media. I am so grateful to you for your actions on the elementary and middle schools, so thank you so much again. Please keep going. We can't leave our high schoolers behind. We need to protect them. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to? Yes, sir.
Sorry for the hat. My name's Michael Weaverstad. I live on Smith Farm Road, and being surrounded by a bunch of teachers and administrators takes me back. So sorry about the hat. I too came prepared to advocate for getting rid of cell phones, smartphones in particular, in the lower schools. And I agree with Catherine that it needs to go further. I think we're at the beginning of this, and I have a lot of research prepared that I didn't bring tonight, but that I will forward to the board. And just briefly, the debate is over. I mean, it's the studies are there, that kids, these devices are designed to create addiction. And even if they're supposed to have them in their backpack or in their desk and tucked away while they're at school, it creates anxiety in the students, and they're unable to focus. I've heard people talk about their fear of something going horribly wrong in a school, tragedies that we're all familiar with, and look, I get it. You know, I'm a parent of a rising sixth grader, I'm a parent of a rising second grader, and I have a, you know, she'll be here someday too. And so, you know, I understand that fear. I mean, that's a parent's worst nightmare. But, you know, the reality is that if you talk to anybody in law enforcement, their recommendation is that smartphones are the worst thing in an ongoing tragedy at a school. The reasons are multiple, but amongst them, chiefly, is that you want the kids hyper-focused, listening to their teacher who will be trained in these situations, not distracted by trying to get a hold of their mom or their dad, God forbid. You know, I'm an actor by trade, so I might get emotional when I talk about this. You don't want them distracted. You want them listening to the adult, being able to follow directions and be focused. You also don't want a noise giving away a location, you know, et cetera. So, look, I understand the fear. I empathize with the fear. I certainly get it. But the reality is the damage that smartphones are doing, apps that replace community, that replace face-to-face interaction, teacher to student, is toxic. And so I came here to advocate for that, and after reading of the decision of the board, I wanted to come here to applaud you on your decision and offer my support. And I am available to, you know, if anybody wants to look at, copy my homework and all my notes that I've taken on this. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Stanhope. I live on Kettle Creek Road. My wife and I have two kids, a rising kindergartner at Hurlbut and a rising third grader at Wiss in the fall. Thank you all, as has been noted prior, for for your service and consideration in this matter of smartphone usage. It's important to everyone in the community, and I'm confident that policies will continue to be made that are going to safeguard our children and their development. Over the last 15 years, technological advancements have well outpaced our ability to create safeguards for our children. It's no question that smartphones ease our daily lives and are productivity enhancing. But as adults, we have greater self-control, obviously, to delineate good from bad. And while there are convincing arguments for smartphone presence in school, ranging from safety to fostering connection for children that struggle socially, the reality is that these concerns are mostly best handled outside of a school setting. Nobody in this meeting attended elementary or middle school with a device, and judging by the state of our community here in Weston, we all turned out just fine. Let's just acknowledge for this moment that these requests for devices in school in many cases are actually for parental convenience, for communicating with their kids, but really at what cost? I'd encourage everyone to read two books, Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier and The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. You may have already. Read them with an open mind. If 50% of the things that they say is 50% true, there's a tremendous amount of work that this body will be responsible for in the coming years and has a duty to act. The two books are eye-opening really on two accounts, the corruption of mental health practices for school-age children and really this deleterious impact of smartphones in sort of this key developmental period of children's lives, which, by the way, tends to be from the ages of 9 to 14. So there's more work to be done as we move up towards high school. According to a letter from the Westport School Superintendent, there are no instances of smartphone bans that have been repealed. So in other words, there's no comparable institution that has taken the step to ban electronics that has then felt regret for having done so. This is a powerful statement of action, and I'm confident that similarly, nobody in this room is going to look back in 10 years and wish that their children had smartphones sooner. I and many others believe a full ban, K through 12, is critically important. Partial bans are a slippery slope that create a tremendous burden for teachers, bus drivers, administrators, and all personnel in our educational institutions to expend their very scarce resources on enforcement as opposed to educating. Let's let teachers teach instead of plain policemen in the hallways. I could put any number of visual graphics as evidence why we must ban devices in schools, but we can summarize them all broadly, very succinctly. The charts all look the same, and you've probably seen much of the information that's in them. It's just a standard line chart representing a time on one side and any number of mental health issues on the other, rising from lower left to upper right. So incidences of anxiety, depression, suicide, loneliness, isolation, emergency room visits, suicide attempts, incidents of self-harm have all been steadily increasing for 15 years, well in excess of any historical trends. The rapid increase really starts around 2010 to 2012 when smartphones became more ubiquitous globally among 10 to 15-year-olds. Proving causation is pretty much impossible, but it's also impossible to unsee the data. The unequivocal conclusion is that the rampant level of smartphone use is slowly killing our most prized possessions, the things that every one of us would do absolutely anything for. Let us not miss the forest for the trees of convenience. Personal smartphones and electronics should unequivocally be banned for K through 12 students on Weston's campuses. Researchers, educational institutions, and legislators have taken note and are taking action. We know the Westport School Superintendent is unequivocally in support of a ban. We're all aware, as we noted, from the communications around WIS in the middle school on Friday, the Surgeon General just earlier today, even on last Friday, President Macron of France proposed legislation banning smartphones for those under 11 and social media for those under 15. There's a more insidious topic, though, that I think that most sort of don't quite see. Let's not make any mistakes. Smartphones are commercial products. There's absolutely nothing altruistic about them or any of their capabilities. They're corporate profit machines that hail from Silicon Valley on planet Palo Alto, and they're funded by smart, intelligent people, and they're gunning for our kids. Through released internal communications, it was revealed that social media companies place a value on our children. It's $270 per person. That is the present value of a lifetime of ad-related revenues that they expect to earn based on the sale of data derived from each one of our children.
5 minutes are up. Do you have much more?
Please finish.
Like the tobacco companies of the 1950s, the firms from Planet Palo Alto are pushing a corporate profit objective, which according to the data is at extreme dissonance with our objective as parents to raise well-adjusted, kind, sociable, and happy individuals. The objective of Silicon Valley is to make that $270 valuation go up. They do this by taking away the scarcest resource to all of us, time. They make their networks more coveted and more addictive so that users spend more time on them. Children are particularly vulnerable. Very close to done. Social media robs our kids of their childhood by immersing them in an adult world that can at times be misleading, vicious, and unkind. Role models are social media influencers, not parents, coaches, or community leaders that imbued all of us in this room with a set of social and cultural norms. And by the way, it just so happens that the most sensitive time, as I mentioned, for children's psychological development is between the ages of 9 and 14. I tend to live my life outside of absolutes, but I have no doubt in stating to this group and everyone in the audience, we all believe that our children are worth more than $270. Given the weight of evidence on how these devices and social media are negatively impacting our youth, I believe the burden of proof should not be on whether these devices should be banned. It should be on whether they are allowed at all. Thank you for your consideration as we try to find a solution together as a community. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Are there anyone else would like to address the board? Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and offering your comments on multiple topics. It's great to see the interest across the community, and I think everyone here, has taken your comments to heart. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is old business. The first is a matter pertaining to personnel, correction to increase previously voted on at the May 20th, 2024 meeting regarding the 2024-25 compensation for the following positions. The increase should have been 2.75%, as those positions follow the ASME contract. Executive assistant to the superintendent, administrative assistant to the assistant superintendent, administrative assistant to Human Resources Director, Administrative Assistant to the People Services Director, Finance and Facilities Office Manager, Accounting Manager, Payroll and Benefits Coordinator, Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable Coordinator, District Data Coordinator, Information Technology Manager, Data Analyst, Athletic Trainer, Vocational Specialist, District Nurse Supervisor, and Food Services Director. Does this require a motion? Sorry, I'm not. Okay, hold on. It's got back to board book. Sorry.
You want me to make the motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
Move to correct the salary increase previously voted on at the May 20, 2024 meeting. The Weston Board of Education approves a 2.75% general wage increase for the 24-25 school year for the positions presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Discussion and, excuse me. Sorry. My finger's moving around. A discussion and approval regarding 5111 admission and placement.
Yes, we have several policies here that, as Ms. Ferraro, who is the chair of our policy committee, knows, these are second reads. So they've already gone the first read. We just need a motion to approve these policies. And if anyone has anything that they want to bring up, but I think that they were discussed pretty thoroughly. Correct, Sharon? So the first one has to deal with admission and placement, and you may recall part of that also had to do with, I'm sorry, kindergarten, the change of age, etc.
Any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, can we have a motion?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the changes to 5111 admission and placement as presented.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion
Aye.
carries.
The next policy has to do with the artificial intelligence, and I want to thank Dr. Hinkle and Mr. Domingo for explaining and talking that through. And then this is the second reading. Any discussion? Further discussion?
No, motion to approve.
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the changes to generative AI, artificial intelligence, as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And the next three policies relate specifically to the board's commitment to sunset policies that have been around a long time and no longer apply. The first one has to do with educational tours. I'm sorry, could you hear what I said? The first one has to do with educational tours. I believe, Dr. Henkel, correct, it's covered under the field trip policy that you spent considerable time revising. So we would like to sunset it.
Is there a discussion? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education sunset 6153.1 educational tours.
Is there a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
The next one has to do with student illness, policy 5141.2.
Is there a discussion? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education sunset 5141.2 student illness.
Is there a second? Thank you, Michael. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Lisa, the next.
The last one has to do with students afflicted with communicable diseases. This is a real blast from the past, and I just want to take an opportunity to thank our new nursing supervisor, who is a Weston resident and a parent, Kristen Abreu, who's really helped us weed these out.
Is there discussion? May I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education sunset 5141.22 students afflicted with communicable disease. Just saying it sounds
Yeah.
ancient.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
Lisa, the year-end review of district goals and aligned action steps?
Yes, it's our favorite time of year, the end of the year, where we review our district improvement plan goals and action steps. So without further ado, can we have our presentation, and different members of the administrative team will be presenting. I would kindly ask if you could hold questions till the end.
Good evening, everyone. Happy belated Father's Day to everyone. I hope you had a great day yesterday. Thank you for all you do. You make a difference. And so, as Lisa mentioned, I'm joined today by all of our members of our school leadership team as well as our district leadership team. We're all going to take a piece of our presentation tonight and talk a little bit about our year-long progress that we're so excited to celebrate today. Before I begin, though, I want to make sure that we highlight the fact that while today we're going to be talking a little bit around the progress of our district goals, and that's definitely one data point, but we're also going to be highlighting a lot of our action steps and the stories that are happening out in the schools. And I want to take this moment to highlight that additional piece of our reflection is around student work and student achievement, because the data that we show only tells one part of the story. The most important part of the story is seeing student outcomes and the student performance throughout the year. And if you were able to join us during our curriculum committee meeting, where our CILs kind of reviewed all aspects of progress and student work, we did a gallery walk as a committee, And we took some time to really look at the student work, and if you haven't had a chance to look at it, it really tells the full story around some of the work that our teachers and our students are doing this year. On, off? Okay, yeah. Turn it on. Yeah, turn it on. That helps?
Yeah, that would
helps.
work, yeah.
Okay, great. And we're off. Our district and school improvement plans are all outlined in a few different aspects. We have the first section, which focuses on academic achievement and growth achievement, and then we transition into other sections related to school climate and culture. Our theme this year has been really focused on K-12 information literacy and technology, and then we'll wrap up with some achievements around human resources, finance, safety, security, sustainability, and future planning. So by the end of the presentation, we hope that we will be able to focus on our areas of celebration relative to our district and school goals and our action steps that we've employed this school year that have resulted in some great student outcomes that we'll see in a moment. We'll talk about some of our greatest achievements, and then we'll talk about next steps and some of the summer work that we're going to be focusing on. So in math specifically, as you may have noted when we did our fall presentation as well as our winter update, we've organized our district goals in two areas. One is around achievement and the other is around growth. And we use two different metrics when we look at achievement and growth for ELA and math. For math, we focus on the NWA assessment, and for reading, we also include the DIBELS 8 assessment, which is a new assessment for literacy in K through 2. You'll notice at the district level, we do also report on our state summative assessment scores. Those are our Smarter Balanced assessment scores, our Next Generation Science assessment scores, and we also do a separate presentation around our achievement around SAT. Today's focus is specifically around the NWA formative assessment tool that we use, as well as DIBELS 8 for literacy. So we did add the column for target because during our winter presentation, we got some feedback from the board that it was helpful to have some of those target numbers in there, and so we agreed and we added that target column. So you'll see that in math across the district, really excited to see some of we've exceeded a lot of our growth targets, especially in K through 2, and also we are also in our grades, our 9th grade assessment as well. We have not received our Smarter Balanced assessment scores yet. Those are embargoed and they will be released in the summer, and then when we come back in September, we will do another presentation specifically focusing on those Smarter Balanced assessments. We do have, an area at the high school, specifically in 11th grade, when we're looking at unpacking the standards and the course trajectories that we're focusing on, because we know we want to focus on those foundational skills in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, which directly correlate and lend itself to student achievement on an assessment like SAT in 11th grade. And so we've begun that work around that course trajectory and the revisions to the 6 through 11 coursework, as well as looking at how do these assessments provide us with more detailed information to make some of those decisions. At the bottom, we focus on growth. So our goals are really looking at another part of the metric that provides us not only with achievement, but it also provides us with growth. How much growth over time does a student make from the fall to the spring? And NWA provides us with a specific target. If they meet a certain number in the fall, they have an expected amount of growth that they should make from the fall to spring. And that's what we use when we decide what our growth goals are. And you'll see that we've exceeded both of those targets from fall to spring. So we're really excited about some of that. And next, we're going to talk about our students with disabilities, which is our subgroup. And Tracy's going to lead that part of the conversation.
Good evening, everybody. Tina just gave a perfect summary of the growth measure on the NWEA that applies to these students here. As we discussed when we reviewed the district improvement plan earlier this year, we established subgroup goals for students with disabilities in both math and ELA. It is important to remember that these are very small subgroups. We have approximately 20 students per grade level who are receiving specialized instruction. This has been an area of focus for us this year. Our data illustrates that we exceeded our goals for special education students in the area of math across all grade levels, which is very exciting, and I think a testament to the work of our special education teachers in conjunction with our general education teachers. It's a collaborative effort, and we're proud of those results.
Thanks, Tracy. Just one highlight before we move on to ELA. If you were not able to tune in to our curriculum subcommittee meeting, this year one of our focus areas in mathematics was reviewing our core curriculum in grades 1 through 5, especially given the fact that from our tri-state visiting committee we were looking at the alignment of curriculum from kindergarten all the way to high school, and we're excited that we will be adopting the same core math curriculum resource that 6 through 12 is going to be using, which is illustrative math, and we're going to begin that adoption in grades 2 and grades 5 in the coming school year. You might be wondering why grades 2 and grade 5. Right now, we know that we are also transitioning to literacy in grades 3 through 5, and so we want to be able to balance the implementation plan, balance the intensity of the teachers being able to focus on one curriculum at a time, and so that's why in 5th grade, we break up 5th grade teachers into dyads, so they have math and science teachers and humanities teachers, and so that's why we chose 5th grade there. And then 2nd grade volunteered, and they wanted to, because they're going into the 2nd year of ARC, they felt they had a strong foundation with the American Reading Company and that they could engage in a 2nd year 2 adoption for a new core resource in math. So we're excited for that work ahead. We're going to shift to literacy next, which follows the same format. As you may recall, for kindergarten through 2nd grade, we adopted a new universal screener per the new adoption of the literacy program. The assessment is called DIBELS 8, and this is our first year of implementation in grades K through 2. And so we really didn't have a baseline data point, and we randomly chose 75%. We thought that was a pretty good number based on some historical data, even though the assessment was different. You'll see we had some great success from fall to spring with the achievement for students in grades K through 2 based on that composite score and that assessment. Moving into grades 3 on up, as a reminder, Smarter Balanced is our district goal that we've been using for grades 3 through 8. However, in grades 9 and 11, again, we use a standardized measure there too. We do have SAT scores for our spring achievement, and then in 9th grade we use NWA again in literacy. So as I mentioned with math, we are looking at that long-term continuum around curriculum for literacy, specifically in grades 6, 7, and 8. We really want to start unpacking some of the core resources that we have for literacy when students transition to the middle school area, and then we really, based on some of the achievement scores that we've seen for American Reading Company in K through 2, we hope to see a lot of that achievement as well in grades 3 through 5. As far as our growth goals are concerned as well, we also use the NWA achievement assessment to determine specific growth goals over time. And so while we have improved in grades 3 through 9, we just met our target from fall to spring. And when we look at students with disabilities meeting their growth projected targets, we do still want to focus and unpack some more of that data to make some instructional decisions with that subgroup. And Tracy's going to look a little bit more intensely at those specific grade levels, which is where we might have some more insight on where we might want to focus.
Thanks. So as I said on the previous slide, our subgroup is very small, so a couple of students can impact our data in more significant ways than when we look at the school as a whole. You can see pretty clearly here that we exceeded our goal in grades K through 2 and in grade 9. I did want to highlight the data for 3 through 5 and 6, 8 because I think it's relevant. In WIS, for example, we had 3 students in that cohort who missed their growth target by a single point. If those students had earned 1 additional point, they would have
met their growth target, it's an absolute. You either meet your growth or you don't. We don't look at how much of their growth they are meeting. And in grades 6 through 8, we had a total of 5 students who missed their growth target by only 1 point. We actually would have exceeded the target in those grade levels had we gotten just a little bit more movement there. So we're close. There is obviously still work to do. This is an area of focus for us. It has been. I think we're beginning to see the impact of some of the reading work that Tina stepped through, and that will be trickling its way up in the grade levels, which I think will be important in terms of the foundational skills, which of course we're building on within special education.
Excellent. So next, we've got district goals around science. As you may recall, we do not have a large capacity formative assessment tool in science. However, last year we started piloting a digital tool called Inner Orbit. It is an assessment platform that helps us unpack and really look at the 3 dimensions of the science assessments that the next generation assessment gathers when students complete that in grades 5, 8, and 11. We started exposing teachers to this assessment 2 years ago, but this past year, Beth Lancaster, our CIL, has really dove in with the teachers in grades 5 through 12, and we've really been starting to analyze the data more intensely and trying to map our common assessments to it and use it to really drive the instruction, make curriculum decisions, make adjustments with the small groups. And the struggle with this assessment, it's very much teacher driven. So the reporting on this assessment platform is not very easily useful. So we end up having to build these assessments on the back end ourselves in these visualizations. So on the top section, you'll see that those are our fall achievement scores in all of the standards, and there are 9 different standards in that one dimension. Remember, there's 3 dimensions in science, so it's quite detailed, quite intense, provides teachers with a lot of good information. And so then in the spring, I just gave you a snapshot, right, from the fall to the spring. So same dimension, same standards, and if you look across the colors, you're basically looking to see how many greens we have. That's the goal. Green is proficiency. And so in the fall, we had 7 greens, right? And now if we compare to the spring, we have 9. So we've increased the number of proficiency standards across that one dimension. However, if you look at actually each individual standard across the 3 schools, there are 22 different domains or different standards across the 3 schools. And of those 22 scores, 17 of them improved by at least 3%. So that's a 77% increase across all the standards in this one domain. So this really helps us look at some growth over time. It's also a great way to customize some of the instruction and the curriculum that we offer in science, specifically in grades 5 through 12. We want to keep using this next year as well and helping us, and in the summer when we look at some curriculum revisions and moving ahead for common planning time with our teachers. So the next section, as you know, we have about 8 sections in our district improvement plan. The next section is school climate, and Tracy's going to lead us through some of those goals and action steps.
So in the area of school climate, our goal for the year was to build connections and create a sense of belonging between and among students, staff, and community stakeholders so that all members of the community feel welcome and valued. I think there was lots of evidence of that over the last couple of weeks with our end-of-year events and activities. So the first 2 goals were established to increase the number of students who report having a connection with at least one adult member of the school community. Based on how our survey is designed, we established one goal for elementary students and a separate goal for our middle school and high school students. You can see that we fell short of the goal at both levels. However, there is improvement at both levels when we compare it to the May 2023 baseline data, which is in parentheses. So we've made some nice movement forward there. Some continued work to do. This will be an ongoing priority for us as a district.
In addition to our goals regarding student connectedness, we also wanted to prioritize increasing the number of staff who feel that morale is high in their school. As is true for the goals highlighted on the previous page, we fell a little bit short of our goal, but again, improvement noted from our May 2023 baseline data. Engaging parents, I think, has been an ongoing priority for all of us here in Weston. Finding an effective way to measure that has been a challenge, to be honest. We chose to highlight the response rate for the school climate survey in our district goal this year. We did communicate about the survey in a number of different formats, but we only had a 20% response rate to that survey, which is actually a decrease from the previous year. We are transitioning to a new survey next year. It will be interesting to see if that has any impact on parent participation. I did want to highlight, while not on this slide, we established a goal to address chronic absenteeism at the elementary level. That data just hasn't been released yet. We will review that at a future meeting. And then I think the building administrators are going to highlight some initiatives in their buildings around culture and climate.
At Hurlbut, we increased our communication with families and did a tremendous amount of outreach with conversations, letters, meetings, to help families understand the importance of attendance and to keep them apprised of their students' attendance records. As Tracy mentioned, we don't have all the data compiled yet, so we'll be referring to that in a future update. We also increased our number of social emotional learning lessons and also increased our number of activities in school related to social emotional learning and emotional intelligence with great success. We added, one example I wanted to highlight was our affirmation station, which our students used on a regular basis and really internalized. It was heartwarming to see that happen. And at our school, we took particular interest in the school climate focus area of having students feel connected to at least one adult in the building, and we exceeded our building level target. And I'm going to pass it on to Patty Falber for WIS.
Great, thank you. We spent a lot of time this year with our continued focus on building kindness and gratitude. Many of our assemblies really focused on kindness, really helping students being kind to themselves as well as kind to others. We had our Being Kind initiative so that they were being recognized for being kind as well, and even creating a whole week in February to focus on kindness. We also we had a new social worker this year who replaced our school counselor, so we really built in a lot of class lessons on kindness, on friendship, on coping skills, and positive social communication skills, really targeting what students needed at different grade levels and in classrooms. We tried to increase our student leadership opportunities this year with our library interns, our WIS Daily News team, as well as our student council. And like Laura said, our goal this year was really looking at making sure that students have at least one adult that they felt that they could go to for help if they needed it. And last year, our goal this year was 73%, and we have 79% of our students reporting that, yes, they have at least one adult that they can go to for help.
Thank you. And for the middle school, we also tapped into this idea that we wanted to increase connections between students, among students and staff. And I want to give a lot of credit here to Patty Powers, who is the teacher who is our PBIS coach. She came to me with the idea of rebranding our advisory, not only just changing the name from advisory to connect, but really focusing the activities so that it really is activities that students and staff are doing together that allow them to bond and allow them to have informal conversations more than some of the more formal lessons that our advisory program included prior. Another big goal that came out of our parent survey data was we really wanted to increase opportunities for parents to feel connected to the school. And across the board, from our counselors having their monthly conversations and coffees with parents on a variety of topics, to just increasing the opportunities for parents to volunteer.
a lot of the parents said they didn't feel like they were allowed originally to come into the middle school. And so we informed them that, oh yes, we not only welcome them, we really appreciate their efforts. And so this year, setting up for Art Jam, Mary Reamer was able to reach out to several parents who helped actually install the artwork around the school. This year's Warrior Day had many more parent volunteers helping out. Our Career Day is always a highlight of parent involvement. I think we had over 20 parents of 8th grade students who presented sessions during our Career Day. Obviously, the PTO sponsored socials and the staff appreciation events. It was just a lot more of the parent community in our building this year. We've continued with the Spotlight students and the positive postcards. This year, our main assembly around the Holocaust, for the first time we weren't able to get an actual survivor to come and speak, so we had 2 individuals who are both children of Holocaust survivors who came and spoke. And that really is an opportunity for our students. It's the first time many of them are learning about the Holocaust, and it really helps to build empathy and helps us contribute to that positive school environment. And now, Ms. Canetta from the high school.
Thanks, Dan. So this year, as you know, we changed the name of our advisory program as well. So last year there was a committee that met on this, and we changed our name of our advisory program to PACT, which stands for Positively Achieving Community Together. Last year in the second semester, we decided that we were moving it to Wednesdays. It continued to meet every Wednesday as a weekly advisory. The nice thing moving into the 23-24 school year, we were able to align our advisory classes with their school counselor. So school counselors were more easily able to push in to the students that are on their counseling caseload to further make that connection between students and counselor. Additionally, we increased our program in our library learning commons. I want to give a lot of credit to Kara Sweezy, who is new in her role as our library media specialist. She's really changed the vibe in our library to be really inclusive for all students. It always was, but there's just a nice feeling of belonging in there with different activities that she has kids participating in, whether it's the brackets about the best pizza around, or the best fast food, or the best holiday movie. She's really brought a spirit of fun into our library learning commons. Additionally, she's had various career speakers into the library as well, so really creating a nice visitor space where students can find out more about the various careers that are out there to inform their future career pathways. And as Dan said, we had our Holocaust Remembrance Day. I want to give a big shout out to Nick Torres, who did an incredible job planning that day with the speakers, 612. We had a couple of different opportunities. As Dan mentioned, we had the Daughters of Holocaust Survivors, and we had a Holocaust survivor who did a smaller group presentation just to, kind of feature the intimacy and the nature of that discussion with a smaller group of students. We have an enhanced website. I continued to send the week ahead, which is a great connection point with our families on Sunday night to inform them of kind of what's gone on and what's about to go on in the week ahead. And then, of course, we have our Link Crew program. It was the inaugural year of our Link Crew, where we have upperclassmen in grades 11 and 12 who push into our 9th grade advisories periodically throughout the school year. And as you know, the Weston Education Foundation was very generous in funding that training. Matt Phillip is one of our assistant principals. Renata Roll and Lauren Matera Arcamone are our advisors for Link Crew. And this year, one of the testaments to its success at Weston High School is that we more than doubled the number of students who applied to be Link leaders next year, which is pretty incredible. So we were really excited to see the success of that. And then, of course, we have our pep rallies and our school spirit days. I met with the student government the other day to look at what we're going to do next year and really task them with getting even more students involved and on the floor and on the field during our pep rallies, and letting the kids know that this is their school. So school spirit really is dependent on them and the activities that they want to see going forward. Thank you all
for that great review for school climate. The next section focuses on information literacy and technology, which was a district theme and a district goal this year. Dan's going to lead this conversation, and I just want to make sure that we remind everyone listening as well that during our curriculum subcommittee meeting, this was a common theme that we had multiple presentations from our library media specialists from kindergarten all the way up to high school to talk about that through line around information literacy and technology. And before you leave, one of the boards behind me also reflects some of that student work and some of the activities that the students engage in throughout their experience in the library. And Dan will mention some of those specifics.
Sure. So a major goal for us this year with the media specialists was to collaborate with classroom teachers to both empower the teachers to understand ISTE and AASL standards, as well as embed lessons on digital literacy and digital citizenship with every single student in the district. So the next 4 slides break it down basically by school. So we're going to start with Hurlbut, where they were part of and you'll see the progression as you go from school to school as to what the topics were with both teachers and with students. So Hurlbut, they met with faculty to go over which ISTE standards are going over with students, and then they met with all of the students. Tina, if you want to go to the next slide. And then you can see how they broke it down grade by grade and how they were able to embed it, whether it was within a social studies curriculum or an ELA on the use of digital content or literacy, media literacy and website evaluation. And then at the middle school, collaborating again with teachers and more direct instruction on digital citizenship. As you see, they're moving up and they're starting to do more research for their papers and giving them daily reminders in the morning show, and continuing on with now we're really into the concept of digital citizenship and how to be a good digital citizen in a global community, all the way up to the high school, with more direct instruction on digital literacy through other avenues such as English and social studies and health and world language courses. So you can see kind of the progression of it starts at one level and it moves all the way up, and we're trying to keep everything vertically aligned, and we're going to continue building on that next year.
Thanks, Dan. Just a quick reminder as well, in our library media curriculum, this is also in K5 where we are going, K8 is where we're going to be housing a lot of our computer science trajectory in our curriculum as we start expanding on that articulated curriculum this year, this summer specifically. And it's also in 6 through 12 where we have specific computer science and engineering curricula outlined through specific courses. And again, I put another shout out if you want to play with some robots. They're over there. They're a lot of fun. You can code them on the spot, and then you press play, and they just go do what you tell them to do. It's a lot of fun. Next is the last 4 sections. The first is focusing on human resources and finance. And I believe Lisa's going to
I'm going to
take this
speak to
slide.
that. Thank you.
Mhm.
So for human resources, we supported the new teachers with the team modules over the course of the year. Our big news, I guess you could say, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the meeting, is the collaboration that occurred between human resources, the unions, and the assistant superintendent on the new teacher leader and teacher evaluation plan that will be piloted this year. And lastly, the team wrote and submitted the WPS diversity recruitment plan draft that went to the Connecticut State Department of Education. It was required. We have received back their notes, and we will be submitting a revised draft in October.
Excellent.
And now, Director Rios.
Thank you, Lisa. I just want to talk a little bit about overall our safety and security for the past year. Our overlying large goal was to ensure that every member of our district and community experiences a safe learning and working environment. So some of our highlights that you can see on the slide are that our the capital budget this year for 2025, $330,000 was approved for camera servers, new cameras, and replacements, and licensing project, which will begin, we expect that to begin in July of 2024. So we're very excited to get that underway. Also, our reunification plans will be finalized We have some site visits coming up later this month, I think, which will help us to pull our plans together and work towards some exercises related to that in the fall of next year. Another thing that we're working on is incident command system, which is through our national incident management system, and that's training. That's a collaborative training between town leaders, educators, central office, staff, and I think that's been a long time coming, and we're going to be doing that coming up in August of 2024 at our leadership retreat, and I think that's going to allow us, again, with first responders, school leaders, if we do have an incident or some type of crisis, this training, we will work better, we'll be a more cohesive and a much smoother unit moving forward. Last, I just wanted to mention, it's not on the slide, but I do want to highlight, the security team. When I came into the district, I started in late July and August. I was very impressed with the team, and again, our cohesiveness and the ability for them to work together. And I tell you what really impressed me the most about the security team is they really care about our students. They really care about our children. And on a day-to-day basis, I've seen that. They work well with staff. They work well with the administration. And as we wrap up this year, you can see the many thank yous, the fist bumps, and it's really heartwarming to know that your team has really made a difference across the district. Next, I'll turn it over to Director Phil Cross.
So as you can see from our sustainability initiative, there is a level of activity at all the first schools. I just want to give a thank you to our green team for all their, and the sustainability club for all their hard work surrounding sustainability activities. The big highlight for us most recently is the addition of the pollinator garden at the courtyard at the high school. For anyone who has walked through that courtyard, before it was only grass. Now it's a beautiful garden. Initially, as it was under construction, I looked at it and I was like, what is going on here? But now it's a beautiful site, and it's a pleasure to walk through that location to see the garden. So thank you very much to the Sustainability Club for that.
And finally, we have our Section 7, which was future planning in the EOC. As you all are aware, we do have a webpage on our district website that houses all the historical, current presentations, documents, plans, video links, everything, quite frankly, imaginable that's been done with regards to both the campus and specifically the middle school. The Weston Middle School staff did work collaboratively with Tecton Architects to do the educational specifications. We presented and you approved the proposal and moving the grant forward to the town government on May 20th. And then for Selectwoman Nestor paused the project on May 23rd, which means that no grant will be submitted until June of 2025. And much of that work we hope will be able to be used that the staff put in. We are awaiting next steps from the town government, and I did meet with First Selectwoman Nestor next week, so I think more to follow in the fall. And finally, it's always nice to just take a moment at the end of the year. We get so caught up in things, the days go by, the days are long and the year goes by very quickly. And we send out updates every month, but I'd like each principal to just highlight a few of the key accomplishments and celebrations, beginning with Laura.
Thank you so much to celebrate. We had an amazing year, and it was really exciting to see the students today really reflect on the year and talk about it with their teacher. We had a lot of students that were really kind of sad to see the year come to an end, and that to me was very telling. While they're excited for summer and talking about camps, they don't want school to end, so that meant the most to me. As Phil mentioned, we've implemented new recycling practices. We have been doing a tremendous amount of education for our young students on how to recycle and getting them actively involved. We filled the Honey Hive a record number of times this year. That's a reflection of all of the hard work our teachers put into helping their students learn how to be safe, kind, and responsible, and the students really rising to the occasion. We actually filled the Honey Hive one last time today. Got it in with just a few today, so we finished up our 11th fill of the Honey Hive. We are so thrilled that we will be installing a new playground in North House this summer. That was a tremendous accomplishment with our PTO. They fundraised in 1 year to renovate the North House playground, and that really speaks to the involvement. Our families are so involved and so supportive. We couldn't do much of what we do without them. They're such an important part of our school. They also have been supporting, and along with WEF, our makerspace redesign, so we'll be preparing that this summer and launching for the new school year. And another record year for our kindergarten project. We do a fun food drive every year for the Weston Food Pantry, and our kindergartners lead this event and raised 176 bags of food for the food pantry. Shout out to Linda Carrot, who started that several years ago, and it really has become a fun annual event for our students and so important to the community. We continue to be a presence on Instagram, and of course, as we already talked about earlier, our reading program was a tremendous success this year, and our math will be rolling out next year following our pilot.
Great. Yeah, it was a great year today as well. We had to have lots of tears too. Kids not wanting to leave with. But it's been a great year. There's so many accomplishments. As Laura was speaking, I'm thinking, I forgot to say that. I should have put that in there. But as we talked in the fall, one of the highlights for us was being recognized by the state of Connecticut as a school of distinction for growth and achievement in both reading and math. And then also this fall, really bringing on that Caught Being Kind initiative, which was a joint initiative between the PTO and Kiwanis, where we have a real vending machine in our lobby where students who are caught being kind get a gold coin, and they get to use it to choose a book of their choosing. And they're so excited about that. And that we've tried to make sure that every student receives at least one coin this year, and it's acknowledged for their kindness, which is really what we're talking about. We have been updating our recycling programs. All of our classrooms have recycling bins. We've talked a lot about it. We have posters, and in February we started composting, which is going really, really well in our cafeteria. We have 2 stations, and the students really take it seriously, even using those little clippers when they drop things in that they shouldn't in the wrong bin, and they take it out. It's really very cute. A big shout out really goes to the PTO for our renovation of our media room in our production studio. It's really, we have new recording equipment. It's a new space, an interview area. It really is a more professional look for our students to not only do the morning announcements, but also to do student-led videos and teacher-led videos. So it's really a great space now with updated equipment. We had a wonderful school musical of Cinderella, If the Shoe Fits, with 60 students, 4th and 5th graders. And really, it's amazing. We talked about music earlier, but over 250 of our students participate in some sort of music ensemble, whether it's band, orchestra, or chorus. So we really, music is flourishing in our school. Now I'll turn it over to Dan Doak.
Thank you, Patty. I think at the middle school there were more cheers and smiles than tears that the year was over. Some of these things were already highlighted on other slides, but I do want to give a shout out to Mike Aikenhead at the high school, who really helped us get our recycling and composting program off the ground here with the help of our own green team. And our other green team initiative was really a full campaign that started just after we came back from the winter holidays to really reduce the plastic utensils. One of our students did a project in one of her classes, and she presented to Dr. Henkel and to myself, and we were able to come up with a plan to help her and the green team launch this campaign. They were selling these little kits to encourage students to bring their own stainless steel utensils to the cafeteria and reduce the reliance on plastic. Again, I'm really proud of our music ensembles. This year we did our traditional Thrills and Trills field trip with all of our auditioned ensemble groups, and all three, jazz ensemble, chamber singers, and chamber orchestra, received a superior rating at that adjudication festival. We also had a very successful musical, the SpongeBob musical, which was a lot of fun. I think I highlighted a few of these already. The only thing maybe that I didn't talk about was this year in October we hosted United Nations Day for the first time here at the middle school in conjunction with the high school Model UN Club, and we had members of the community, the town committee, and we actually had the ceremony here in our library with all of our 7th graders in attendance. And I think in the past, sometimes students from either the middle school and or the high school would go to the town green, and sort of that would be the audience for this ceremony. We had a much more meaningful celebration this year, bringing it into the middle school, having 7th graders participate, having the high school students come down as well, just because of that curricular connection with the 7th grade curriculum in social studies. So those are some highlights and celebrations from the middle school. Megan?
Thanks, Dan. I just want to revisit some data from school climate for the high school too, because I think it was off the slide there, but it's in your board book slides. Right, is that okay? All right. So I talked about PACT and increasing it to once a week. So we were able to increase the number of students who felt connected to at least one adult from 68.2% last year to 73.6% this year. So kind of a fun fact for the high school, that increase of 5% that really feel a connection to one adult in the building. The other point that I wanted to make in terms of our school climate data is that we always also look at that, how many kids report none, right, none of the time to a lot of the questions we ask. While we don't have the specific students, one of my goals was to really reduce the number of students who were reporting none of the time, right? My peers are friendly, none of the time, or I have a connection to an adult, none of the time. I like to come to school, none of the time, right? And across the board for those questions, we were able to reduce the students reporting none 1 to 2% across those questions. So I think that that's nice for us. And then I have to talk about all the other good things. So we are very excited. As many of you know, we hosted 3 workshops this year, 2 for parents and students and 1 for our teachers in partnership with the Challenge Success Program, which is that research organization out of Stanford University who really focus on positive school climates and changes that schools can make to increase the overall well-being of our students. And we are really excited that next year we are able to have a year-long partnership with Challenge Success, which will include workshops, coaching. We're going to have a school climate team, which is also going to be our Challenge Success team. We're going to issue 3 surveys in the fall, which are really kind of more academically oriented in terms of academic integrity, number of honors and advanced classes students might be taking, the amount of sleep students are getting. So really asking them some of those key questions to help inform some of the decisions we make at the high school level to support them. So that survey is going to go out to all of our students, families, and our staff to look at how we can make future improvements on our protocols, our procedures, schedules, all of that. As I said, we had the inaugural year of Link Crew, which I do credit that increase in the number of students who feel connected along with our PACT program. We will continue to offer those workshops. As I said, we'll switch it up a little. We'll work with our Challenge Success coach to really look at the workshops that will be most impactful for our community, either with staff, families, and or students. We continue to increase our communication tools. Instagram is certainly on our radar. I have to always remember that I need to work on my social media and get those pictures out there. We had students produced and directed our spotlight performances this spring, which was all student run. They did the lighting, directing, producing, writing, which was a pretty incredible night for our kids. And of course, we have all of those accomplishments and celebrations from our athletics as well. boys swim state championship, boys and girls ski, both SWC and state open championships, tennis SWC championships, and of course our girls were just the lacrosse state runner-up in the Class M.
Congratulations. We have so much to celebrate based on our accomplishments this year. We've done so much great work. The teachers should be commended. The students also, as you could see, did so much work this year as well. And it's through the leadership of our school principals and the leadership of our teachers that, all of these great experiences are happening for kids. But as the school year comes to an end, we in our office are actually gearing up to use our summertime to prepare for next school year. And as we've done when I started last year, we designed a summer curriculum academy. It's a 5 consecutive day intense curriculum academy where we work across all content areas and all grade levels to begin revising and updating curriculum before a lot of vacations happen in July and August typically. So we will be running our phase 2 of our curriculum academy this summer. We have approximately 64 teachers working across 8 different content areas, which are comprised of 33 different teams. We're going to be, again, focusing on our curriculum design and Weston's framework that is grounded in universal design, and our curriculum and instruction leaders will be supporting me and leading a lot of that work this summer. So it will help us prepare for next school year and see a lot of the great results that we're seeing from this past school year too. So we're looking to build on that this summer in preparation for next school year. And Lisa, I'm going to hand it over to you.
So in September, we will be reporting out on the Smarter Balance as soon as the scores become unembargoed. Is that the right word? Unembargoed. We will get that out to you in September, as well as the NGSS, as well as the attendance data. All of that will happen over the summer, and we will certainly follow up in September with those results. Thank you.
Yeah, I have some questions. Are you ready for all of my adversarial questions, people? Those numbers are, there's some really good stories to tell here, and you all get beat up enough, we get beat up enough that, goodness gracious, you should take a curtain call when it merits it. So there's certainly work to be done in a bunch of those numbers, I get that. But there are some pretty remarkable numbers that you're showing up there, which is very exciting. So a few comments on some of the things that you shared. I do want to flag for us, at a certain point, eking out a nominal increase on some test score may actually not be the biggest bang for the buck. I'm not suggesting that you should never strive for that, but some of the experiences you're looking around here on these various placards and things, it's great that we're thinking about different ways to evaluate how we're doing. Because honestly, if our literacy on a assessment goes up 0.2% or down 0.4%, it may not be that big of an indicator of what's actually happening. So I'm thrilled to see a lot of the ways that you all are assessing how that we're doing. And I will say, this is a tiny topical thing, but my daughter actually did not want to go to a birthday party this afternoon because she was so sad about finishing school. Yeah, so these anecdotes you're hearing are in fact borne out by what's out there. I do think, in looking at all these different ways of validating what's happening, you all should figure out a home for these placards right here. And perhaps maybe there's even a virtual experience for people considering coming to this district where they get to walk through that rather than, walking through whatever, social media or something. Then a few thoughts, just a couple call-outs. On the digital learning front, Dan, thanks for all of that. Tina, thanks for all the digital learning focus this year in curriculum committee. One thing I'm interested in, I'll quote Peter Gordon here since he's maybe still listening, but he had, I thought, the best distillation ever of this, which is teaching our kids how technology works, not just how to work technology. And so a bunch of those slides there, it looks like really good work we're doing in terms of digital citizenship. And the question is helping, and maybe some of these computer science standards we're looking at, helping them understand the guts behind it, which is a different way to inoculate them against all the same things that parents were asking about tonight. Director Rios, this is going to maybe be music to everyone's ears, but certainly Michael and David's. I do think at some point in the future it'd be worth, and I'm going to be very vague about this because of all the talk about it in executive session, but there were these different priorities that our law enforcement professionals said would be good things to consider, even in that mile of safety officer discussion. There were a couple priorities. I'm not going to get into them, numbers or things like that, but down the road it may be something worth revisiting since our own law enforcement professionals were flagging those things. The sustainability efforts, like awesome. Thanks for the education there. I'm curious as we consider that if the biggest environmental bang for the buck in this community is probably our lawn care use, actually. If we look at gas-powered blowers, additionally glyphosate, things like that, and I wonder if that's where we can even increase efforts as well. And then one tiny request, and this is not from me, but it's just to try to help the absenteeism thing. I mentioned this before, but I had all these parents today be like, why are we in school for an hour and 30 minutes or whatever it was today? So if we're trying to focus on absenteeism, maybe making the schedule, be a little less likely for people to try to ditch class, that might be worth it. And then, Megan, last thought, which is I don't know that you do need to spend any time making sure that our Instagram, whatever, gets out there. I think there's lots of ways that you spend your time that are really valuable in our kids' lives, and I'm not sure that's one you even have to burden yourself with. So, as you can tell by my giant letter there, like, boy, oh boy, a bunch of questions, but I think it's thrilling to see both the qualitative and quantitative progress that we're making. I also think it's thrilling to watch all of you put in the heavy lifting day after day to document this stuff, and thank you.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to make a comment about the school culture and climate piece that we saw today. I mean, there's so much research out there that talks about the importance of students feeling that sense of belonging in school and how it's connected to academic achievement and also academic risk-taking, that willingness to be vulnerable to participate when you're not sure you have the answer. And that's sometimes those spaces where we see the most amount of learning. And when we look at all of the great things that were done, it's so amazing to see all those activities and celebrations at the school level, at the building level, at the classroom level that really highlight that work that's being done. And when you're doing those kinds of things, and oftentimes they're things above and beyond a job description that require an enthusiasm that has to be genuine in order for the students to feel it, the success that we see in that piece is truly fantastic. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of that. And as to why the importance of this last short day was so big for my son in middle school, I asked him what was the best part of today going to school, and he said, I got my last teacher's signature for my yearbook. So for a 6th grade boy, for that to be the highlight of the day, how connected he felt to those teachers, not just to ask, but to want that memory was, spoke volumes to me for how successful it's been for all of the work that you all do. So thank you.
I have just two. One is for Joe. Can we make sure that before we commit some of the funds that have been approved for 2025, we have a meeting with Captain Bradacki so we can kind of flesh out some of the things that he saw as high priority, so we make sure that we're spending in areas that he would consider best use of the dollar that we have.
Sure, we can do that. Maybe we can do some type of a presentation in the fall when we come back. Or I'll work with Lisa and we'll try to accomplish that.
Yeah, I would also add that Captain Bradacki helped us with the capital budget plan, correct? And what he thought would be important to spend those funds on. That he was actually a collaborator on the plan, but we can certainly share out more information.
Yeah, I just know, without talking too much about it, there were things that were higher on the list that did not appear on the slide. And my other question was, as far as the curriculum goes, it's good to see that we are making progress in many of the areas. We're meeting or exceeding the goals in many of the areas. do we have any way of going back 2 years ago, for example, to compare what the goals were from a, what's the right word, as we're changing the curriculum and the textbooks and the programs that we're using, I always ask the question, are we teaching to a state standard? Are we teaching above a state standard? Are the state standards today less than what the Weston standard was 2 years ago? Do we have any data that shows that while we're making improvements, the improvements aren't that we lowered the bar, it's that the outcomes are actually on par or better than what they were in the past?
Yeah, this was a point of topic, I think, in our curriculum subcommittee that you mentioned, and I want to make sure that we're very clear that the Common Core standards and the Next Generation Science standards are directly aligned to the assessments that we use, not only to measure our curriculum, but also to drive our goals and our achievement scores. So these are state standards. We do have some areas of growth and achievement that we still have to work towards, because we have not met a consistent 100% in all of those areas in every single grade and every single content area. So they are rigorous, and we are looking to ensure that our resources are high quality resources, that we support curriculum design, and we provide that to teachers so that the experience in the classroom is student-centered. There's opportunities for discourse, there's opportunities for student choice, there's project-based learning experiences in there, and I'd love to get to a point where we start to create some projects and tasks that are interdisciplinary and across different content areas as well, so kids can actually see how the content is interconnected and not isolated, which is sometimes where we, when we design curriculum, sometimes that's where we land. So first, we need to start with ensuring that the core curriculum is aligned to the standards K through 12 in all of those different areas, and then we can start crossing them over and creating more projects that are interdisciplinary.
Okay, just to be clear, so when we look at goals of 60% of our students are in the 70th percentile, whatever the case may be, my question was more along the lines is the 70th percentile at or above where we were in previous years as far as what we would expect out of our students?
I'm not sure, as I can only speak to what we did last year. As you know, the 50th percentile, when you look at an NWA score, is an average percentile, where the majority, like that bell curve, when we look at that, where the majority of students fall within that range. In Weston, we slid that scale a little bit above that 50th percentile in specific grade levels. I think we talked about why we did that was because when you look at some of the predictability research studies and the white papers that NWA has used, they typically correlate a 61st percentile to a smarter balance level of a 3. Those data points and those research files will be updated. They're coming out with new reports now, especially since COVID over the last couple years, and we've seen some of that scale come down slightly. So as we think next year, we will be looking at those white papers and we'll be looking at those goals again.
And I will also add, 3 years ago when we started these goals and we were basing it more on data, we heavily relied on NWEA as an end-of-year idea, and this year we moved more towards looking at Smarter Balance and NGSS. So there is going to be a little bit of a change based on that. And we always were aggressive with NWEA goals at like 61st percentile and stuff. We never were at the 50th percentile. So from the 3 years that we've been looking at data, we haven't moved the goalposts lower. But we did change what the goal was to Smarter Balance over NWEA.
If I may add, I think also the focus of looking at NWA and Smarter Balance, and years ago, those of us that remember the CMTs and GAP, it became imperative to really look at this as we moved through COVID, because we had to make sure that our children were not falling through the cracks. So there has been, I would say, almost a hyper-focus on this as we're coming out of the pandemic years. We also had to make sure that we designed a strong plan with all of our COVID funds along the way, that if we put money into intervention support and things like that, that we were doing it in a way that when we lost those funds, we'd still be on a trajectory towards excellence, if I may. So I do think that we're in a really great spot right now. That's what the scores are showing us. But I so appreciate what you also said, Chad, and that there are so many other measures that we use. When we look at a standard, for example, we say, okay, we want to align the curriculum with the standard. And those are the standards for, many, many children across, whether it's this state or this nation. Where the rubber meets the road is in the instruction with our teachers. And our teachers have high expectations. They push our students, and it really is the tasks that we are asking them to do. We go back and we look at Portrait of a Graduate, critical thinking, and how is that expressed through the standard, but they are incredible learning activities that we have here in Weston, and I'm just so proud of what goes on in the classroom, because I think sometimes when we think of standard or standardized, it can have a little bit of a, dare I say, less creative connotation. And that's certainly not the truth. That's why I thought it was so important to put up those trifolds and everything to see that, yeah, we embed standards, but in this district, we do it. The skill development is at a very high level.
And Dr. Ankel, that makes me think that next year maybe one of the topics for our subcommittee for curriculum could be looking at defining what a standard is versus what curriculum is versus what instruction is, formative and summative assessment, so we can really break it down. Because I think very often we kind of put them all in one bucket, but they really are measuring very different things or very different jobs.
I just actually want to reiterate what Chad said, which is a lot of times you're all standing up here being asked really hard questions about why things are not happening the way that people want them to happen, or about things that are not lining up the way that people had hoped they had. And I have to say that this is a wonderful report card. It is not perfect. It is not an A+. If it were, I'd think that something was wrong. So I want to congratulate all of you for doing a great job. We've had a wonderful year, I think. Clearly, there are things that we will continue to work on, but I think that this speaks volumes as to how hard all of you have worked this year. So thank you for that, and let's keep going.
All right, I'll just I'll reiterate some of the comments that have been made. Look, I want to thank all the principals. I know that my daughter has had really a wonderful year at Hurlbut. I want to credit Ms. Cadis with that. And I know that sort of result, that sort of environment is sort of propagating throughout all of the schools. And so I want to thank all the principals for all that you guys do. Everyone here is under an extreme microscope. And so, the stakes are enormous and there's a lot of pressure. And so to see the results that, you've put up there, you've walked through, and really how much you all care about the kids is really inspiring. And I think all parents in the town are grateful for everything you guys do. To the board itself and to everyone here, we've had some spirited debates this year. I appreciate you guys, the patience for, me jumping in here and the learning curve that is being a new board member. So I appreciate that. I would be remiss if I did not have a few more questions, just really quickly, about some of the things that are on in this report. The first thing, just to Tina, really quickly, and look, I want to thank you for putting the targets up there. It was very helpful, much appreciated. It's a pet peeve, and thanks for being accommodative on that. Just on the targets, you mentioned one of them being randomly chosen. How are we coming up with the targets for these various categories? Is it a top-down? Is it a bottoms-up build? Is it, are we comparing ourselves to other Durgays and taking sort of, what to the extent that we know what those targets are that they're using, are we taking in an aggregate or some sort of comparison versus other DERGAs? I'm just trying to wrap my head around why certain targets are where they are and whether or not those need to be adjusted. I mean, some of these targets I think we've blown out of the water, which is a testament to all of you, obviously. But are those too low then? Should we strive for more? So I guess my simple question is, how do we come up with those targets?
Sure. We look at trend data. Typically, 2 to 3 years back is usually what we like to look at. We do not make our targets based on other districts. We look at our own data, and we typically go between a 3 to 5% increase because statistically significance ranges between that number. We typically look, because a lot of our scores are on the higher end, 3% is aggressive yet achievable. So you'll see that a lot of our targets are a 3% increase from the year before. And the only goal that we really had no baseline with was DIBELS 8 for literacy K through 2. And even still, we did look at previous literacy achievement data based on a different assessment, but we looked at what typically our students did in K through 2 by the end of the school year. And as you saw, we've exceeded that target even from previous trend data. So that was really exciting to see, and we hope that that trend will continue in grades 3 through 5.
I can just point out the school improvement plans also look at the cohorts by grade. And if you go in where it is on the website, you'll find, and so that's kind of the bottom up, I guess you would say. They look at the cohort, right, ladies and gentlemen, and then they decide, okay, this cohort for next year we think could get this. So it's the children in front of us. And then at the district level, there's some combined grades.
Right, and so if it's a bottom-up, then you would expect that, and you're doing a bottom-ups build, let's call it, then you would expect that target to change plus or minus every year depending on the population.
Yeah, we reevaluate those goals at the end of every school year based on how we've done, and we collaborate with our principals and have a lot of conversations, especially during our August retreat, to finalize the school goals, which then directly connect to the district goals. I would like to just add one more piece that we spoke about before, which is that we do look at our DERG A data when our summative assessments come back out, which is our September conversation. We look at achievement scores in both literacy, math, and science, and SAT scores as well. So we do try to look to see how everybody's doing around the area, not because we're looking to compare necessarily, but it provides us with some networking and conversations around different practices, different resources. What are you doing that's working well? Very similar to what we do in schools, in our own schools, in our classrooms. As district leaders, we do that across the DERGs as well and have some conversations around networking and what's working and what's not. I think some of our action steps even this year have resulted in some great changes to our policies and our practices, even specific to cell phone use. So it's through that networking and conversation that we learn from each other, and that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
On slides 15, if we can go to slide 15, I am curious as to these two stats that we pose here. And that was basically, okay, so the number of staff believe staff morale is high. That came in a little bit, improvement over last year came in a little bit lower than I guess anticipated our goal. Do we know what the drivers of that are? The drivers of, let's say, morale not being high? Do we know if there's a concentration of that staff in any one school? I guess our department, but I'm just curious if you can double click on that to see, because obviously it's something that we're measuring ourselves against, and we want to, of course, improve morale. I guess my question is, can we double click on that and get to the reasons behind it and then address those concerns?
The answer to that question is yes, and yes, we are doing that. So when we look at this data, we can, the way that Dan inputs the data, thank you very much for organizing that, we can break it apart by building.
Okay.
And it's also helpful sometimes to pair some of that data with comments that are provided by staff. So there's open-ended questions in the staff surveys as well. I do want to point out, Tina just made a point about what's statistically significant, and we're talking about 3 to 5%. We did aim high on these, so that is nice improvement. But both last year and this year, yes, we drill down into that data. We don't get into that much detail when we report out here, but there is helpful information, and I think the principals have all provided really concrete examples of some of the strategies that we're implementing as a result of last year's data. That's a teaching point for us, and it will drive the work going into the next school year. Just because we worked on staff morale this year doesn't mean that next year we say, okay, we're good to go. This is going to be a focus for us moving forward. We want people to feel good about coming to work.
And so are we aware of some of those drivers? Like, when we parse through the data, are we aware of some of, let's say, the consistent, I don't want to say complaints, but challenges, let's say, that some of the staff have in terms of, why, let's say, morale may be lacking and how we could address those head on?
Yes, I think we have data in each building that helps us drive how we structure conversations with staff, the types of activities that we have available for staff. There's different stressors working at different levels. I think some of that comes up in these responses as well. But yes, we have that information. We work with the building principals. They take a close look at that. And we also have teacher leaders who realize and understand the importance of this work and are also working toward this goal in partnership.
Okay, great. I'm glad we have data. And then just lastly, last question on this slide here. Just on the parental sort of response and let's say engagement, I would imagine that this would be quite a volatile measure anyway, from time to time, based on whether or not there's some sort of galvanizing issue or that the parents are addressing, or and it could also be a matter of just how you're running the survey, right? In terms of if you are sending the survey out to, both parents, let's say for children, and you're getting a higher incidence of that, and basically only one parent's going to respond, and so maybe that impacts the rate here. But do we know why that rate seemed to again drop so dramatically on a year-over-year basis, and sort of what we're doing to maybe address it?
I honestly think this data point was a surprise for us. It was a surprise for me personally. I do feel like we communicated about the survey more this year than we had in years leading up to it. I don't know if time of year is potentially a factor for families. I am not a survey expert. I think people tend to fill out surveys when they have a point that they want to raise and feel really passionately about. And potentially there was a little bit less of that this year. I don't know. Like I said, we're restructuring the survey. That might prompt some increased interest, and I think we need to continue to think about our communication of that.
And then I guess my last two comments are, number one, I just want to thank, I wasn't here, I didn't attend the meeting on June 3rd, but I wanted to thank Phil for actually coming through on the transportation contract and actually getting what I would suggest was a reasonable savings from where we started, a dramatic savings from where we started. And we went through the process and we got them to come down even. Well, I didn't get them to come down more. You did. So I appreciate that. I know you worked hard on that, and that was a long process. So thanks for that. I do also want to thank Joe Rios, of course, for everything you've done. You continue to sort of work through the process here with us. You continue to be an open ear, and I appreciate all the attention and all the meticulous sort of detail that you're providing on the security front. So I appreciate that. And then I think my last comment is just on the where are we? Sorry, I lost my place. Just in the future planning, I know that we had a hiccup here this year on the process with respect to the future planning. I do think, we've been at this, for multiple years now. I know we're awaiting some next steps by town government. But I do think there are probably some things that we can do in anticipation of, look, fall's going to come quickly, and then we're going to be in the budgetary process as well at the beginning of the year. And I just want to make sure that, maybe we're giving a little bit more thought now to laying out what a comprehensive process and framework, looks like, and what that timeline looks like backing into when the grant proposal or the grant application would be due. I don't want to get into, I want to try to avoid this situation of, we have 3 weeks to make a decision and everyone feels rushed and the community is obviously, in an uproar because they haven't had time to evaluate. And so, I think, the sooner we can start that process, the better. I'm happy to help in any way I can, but I would say that we'd start that process immediately when we meet back in September. So thanks to everyone. Appreciate the time.
Of why we're all here. I mean, see the seniors and then see the 8th graders going into 9th grade. I mean, that's kind of where it's at. But you have a big challenge in front of you because Sharon and I were at Le Shot event on Saturday, and if there's any question as to whether or not there are a lot of young children in our community, just attend one of those Music in the Meadow events, and there are a zillion little kids running around and lots of pregnant women. And, anybody who thinks that questioning whether or not our school population and the projections we've received, may be off, just come to that. Just come to one of those events. There are just a ton of young families in this town, and there are going to be a lot of kids coming through the school system. So you have a challenge in front of you, and I know you're up for it, and we're going to help you in any manner that we can. So thank you very much. Why don't we move on to, why don't we raise the light so I can see this? And we can move on to new business. There we go. Wow. Hi, everybody.
Sure. We have several gifts that require approval and acceptance, beginning with our first, which is, I'm sorry.
A donation from the Weston Educational Foundation.
Correct. Herbert Elementary School, the Weston Education Foundation, and Laura talked about this in her comments, the excitement about the maker space. The value of the gift is $23,086.69.
Can I a motion to approve the donation from the Weston Educational Foundation?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve a donation from the Weston Education Foundation in the amount of $23,086.69 for the Hurlbut Elementary School Makerspace.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Aye.
The next is a gift, a donation on behalf of the Weston High School PTO, $10,000. This is to partner with us to continue the Challenge Success organization at the high school that evaluates our school system supports and services. The goal is to increase student voice in these overall programs and practices at Weston High School. And is there a motion to approve this donation?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve a donation from the WHS PTO in the amount of $10,000 for Challenge Success.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next.
The next requires the acceptance by the Board of Education, as it has been approved by me, and that is for the intermediate school. The PTO at the intermediate school would purchase a backdrop for the West Media Room.
Move that the Weston Board of Education accept the donation from the WIS PTO in the amount of $1,450 for the WIS Media Room backdrop.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None?
The next is another one of acceptance from the WIS PTO. I know Ms. Faber had talked about their generous donations. They're really trying to, I guess, beautify the school, might be a way to put it. It's the idea of a School of Distinction banner in the amount of $500.
Thank you.
No motion.
No motion.
And another gift from the Weston Intermediate School, again, that just requires you an acceptance, and that is for $209.36, additional items for media room update. Wall decor, a lot of different things, right, Patty?
The next, Lisa?
Oh, sorry. The next is a donation from the Weston Education Foundation in the amount of $5,000 to also partner with the PTO on the Challenge Success organization.
Have a motion?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve a donation from the Weston Education Foundation, WEF, in the amount of $5,000 for Challenge Success.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving right along, we're going to be looking at discussion and vote on the Board of Education meetings that we had a draft to propose. I do have a suggestion on that draft. If you notice, first of all, we have 4 in-person meetings that have already been identified. And there is Monday, February 10th, or the 24th, 2025 is something that we have to decide because of the February recess. I would suggest that we approve the date of Monday, February 24th, because the Board of Selectmen in mid-February has their meeting to review our budget, and it would be helpful then to move that regular meeting to later on the 24th.
Any discussion amongst the board? Okay.
We double-checked Passover, and we think that we're good in April, correct, Mrs. Sakata? So, yeah.
Have a motion to approve the calendar for the upcoming fiscal year, or school year?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the 24-25 regular meeting dates as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. Shall we go to the SRO Memorandum of Understanding? So this actually was on an earlier agenda. I don't know if it was, I think it was last month, but we decided to move it because we anticipated a great discussion at the last meeting. Basically, in summary, What this is the memorandum of understanding regarding our school resource officer program. Chief Henyon and I worked very closely with the SROs, particularly Jason Kim, who has been the longest serving SRO now in the program. The reason that we needed to do this also was because there were some changes in the Connecticut general statutes. And so just to highlight a couple of things, there is a requirement that the SROs be included in all social emotional learning training and restorative practices. And I do have to say that the SROs very frequently attain our professional development in that way. So we are formalizing it here in this memorandum of understanding. The other piece that the state statute required was the idea of graduated response for student discipline. And that's explained here. I have to be frank that these practices and these descriptions, quite frankly, are what we've been doing anyway in the town of Weston. Some of these requirements in the statute for all districts to follow are really sort of parameters that were put up especially in the urban districts and the role of the SRO in those districts. With regards to any kind of student discipline or anything, the SRO has not been involved with that in our schools, and it's explained pretty clearly on page 5, the graduated response model, which is what we've done, quite frankly, all along. Our SROs do not arrest, they do not get actively involved in disciplinary incidents at all. What's interesting to note is there are forms now that, again, are required by statute. And if you look at them, they begin on about reporting investigations on, it's the Form A at the back, and there's 2 pages there. And it talks about basically it's gathering quantitative data that needs to be turned in. When we were looking at this, we don't really fill out these forms because our SROs don't have that role, to be perfectly frank. So this does formalize the statute. If by chance there was some kind of emergency or crisis where they did fill it out, we certainly will comply. And every month, I believe we have to fill out a form that says there are no forms, which would be sort of our practice anyway. So the next step would be for you to approve this, and then it would go on to the police commission. And Chief Henyon would take it there. I don't know if there's any questions.
I'll just say one quick thing. Our MOU really defines what the purpose of the SRO is. I think anyone in the community who had concerns about the law enforcement aspect of our SRO should definitely read the MOU, because it's very clear that their role is not a law enforcement role, and the law enforcement role only comes into play when every other option is exhausted, and there are lots of options before they get involved.
Well said. Thank you, David. I would encourage the community to read it. This program is successful for that very reason.
And you can see that, by the way, the kids interact with the 2 SROs. I mean, they really have a great relationship.
Which, frankly, they wouldn't have if they were, if that wasn't their purpose.
Yeah. If there are no more questions, can we approve the memorandum of understanding for the SROs?
Move that the Weston Board of Education authorize the board chairman and superintendent of schools to execute the SRO Memorandum of Understanding as presented on behalf of the Board of Education and Weston Public Schools.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Lisa?
Thank you. Now we are turning to the approval of the 24-25 contracts for central office unaffiliated staff. They're all listed there.
Are there questions on the on the proposed contract? motion to approve?
We have motions for each one.
Oh, do we really?
Yes.
Okey-dokey.
You want to
Sorry about that.
do one at a time?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I feel like I should drink some tea first. Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the contract term for Ms. Tina Henkel, Assistant Superintendent, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2026. 2, establish a base salary of $227,539.88, representing a 2.75% increase to Ms. Henkel's current base salary in the amount of $6,089.88. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the assistant superintendent incorporating these changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve the contract term of Mr. Philip Cross, Director of Finance and Operations, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 2, establish a base salary of $209,399, representing a 7% increase to Mr. Cross's current base salary in the amount of $13,699. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the Director of Finance and Operations incorporating these changes.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve the contract term of Ms. Tracy Edwards, the Director of Pupil Personnel Services, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 2, establish base salary of $207,241.52, representing a 7% increase to Ms. Edwards' current base salary in the amount of $13,557.86. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the Director of Pupil Personnel Services, incorporating these changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve the contract term of Mr. Daniel DeVito, the Director of Digital Learning and Technology, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 2, establish a base salary of $177,037.66, representing a 2.75% increase to Mr. DeVito's current base salary in the amount of $5,018.43. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the Director of Digital Learning and Technology, incorporating these changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve the contract term of Mr. Michael Del Mastro, the Director of Facilities, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 2, establish a base salary of $146,576.13, representing a 2.75% increase to Mr. Del Mastro's current base salary in the amount of $3,922.96. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the Director of Facilities incorporating these changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve the contract term for Mr. Joe Rios, the Director of Safety and Security, for a new period of 2 years, July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 2, establish a base salary of $93,502.50, representing a 2.75% increase to Mr. Rios' current base salary in the amount of $2,502.50. And 3, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the Director of Safety and Security incorporating these changes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Lisa?
Moving on. Next item on the agenda is a matter pertaining to personnel discussion and approval of the hiring of the Director of Human Resources. I know that the board is aware that The director, Rasmussen, resigned in May to move on to other opportunities. The position was posted, and after a review of applications at the central office level, we had an internal candidate that had expressed interest, and that is Julianne Gavoni, the assistant principal of Weston High School, who, those of you may remember, she has served in that role for 8 years, I believe, and 1 year as interim principal. Ms. Gavoni, after 2 rounds of an interview as well as a performance task with the cabinet, we are very pleased to move her forward in this role. She is a critical thinker, an excellent presenter. She has been an integral member of our administrative team for her tenure here. She also has a strong understanding of Weston culture, families, students, and staff, and served on the committee that worked on the new evaluation plan for leaders and teachers. So we are really pleased. I am very excited to see Julie in this role, having worked with her for many years when I was principal of the high school. And I think that this is a real advantage. Her commitment to the district and to seeing how our staff, which is 80% of our budget, it's really important that we work well and support our staff through the hiring and retention process, because they are directly linked to student learning. So I am asking for your approval in hiring her to this critical role.
Any questions, comments from the board?
I have a question, but not about that role. Is this opening for questions on any of the consent agenda, or just this role to start?
This isn't the consent agenda.
Okay.
When we get to that, you're welcome to ask a question. Okay?
Yeah, no questions.
Can I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education, 1, approve hiring of Ms. Julianne Giovanni as Director of Human Resources. 2, another one. 2, authorize an employment agreement for a term of 2 years from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2026. 3, establish a base salary of $187,286. And 4, authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute the employment agreement with the Director of Human Resources.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving along, the next item up for discussion and approval is the new WPS Leader and Educator Evaluation Plan. Dr. Henkel?
This past year, the state of Connecticut required all districts to update their leader and educator evaluation plans. I was able to gather a team of members from our Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, which comprised of teachers across the K-12 continuum, administrators from the secondary and elementary level, and as well as, at the time, our Human Resources Director. We have conducted a crosswalk of our current plan with the updated frameworks from the state of Connecticut to understand what was new and what we could keep. And we have revised our current leader and educator evaluation plan and proposed and presented that plan to both unions, the teacher union as well as the administrators union. We conducted a union vote within both unions. Both unions voted unanimously to adopt the Weston leader and teacher evaluation plan as presented, which you have in your packet this evening. The vote is to pilot that proposed plan for 1 year. The state of Connecticut has allowed all districts to revise their updated plan and submit that plan for July 1. And once approved, you can pilot your revised plan for 1 year, gather feedback, make revisions, and then come back for a final vote at the end of the school year. So that is what we, both unions voted and agreed upon, and this evening we would graciously request your nomination and vote to also continue with that plan.
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the WPS Leader and Educator Evaluation Plan to pilot for the 24-25 school year as presented.
For a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Thank you. So the consent agenda, there are a couple little twists in this consent agenda, so I need you to follow along with me, please. I will say that there are a couple of items on this agenda that are interesting. We have 2 staff members who have chosen to take a different path in the Weston Public Schools. They are both valued staff members, and we wish to support them in that role. So that's why you will see under a new hire, we have Dawn Murray as WHS para-educators in special education. You will also have her under retirement as a special education teacher. It's very interesting. She's going back to her roots of being a para-educator because I first met Dawn back in 1991 when she started as a para-educator. She worked for 7 years, went back to school, left, did her student teaching, and lo and behold, we had an opening, and we immediately hired her in that role. Well, Dawn is now looking for a different type of an opportunity that perhaps fits a little bit better with her personal life at this point. She wasn't quite ready to give us up, didn't want to leave the high school, but wanted perhaps to make way for someone else to join the teaching staff at the high school. So that's why you see both the new hire and the retirement. Another interesting new hire is Matthew Phillip as a mathematics teacher. I'm sure we all know Mr. Phillip. You can see under resignation as an assistant principal. Matt and I have worked together again. It was when I first came back to the high school as principal. Both Matt and Julie were hired as the assistants. And after serving in that role for, again, 8+ years, he misses the classroom. And as someone that really misses being the principal and being in a building all the time and seeing children, I can certainly understand that. So he is affording himself the opportunity to go back into the classroom, and we certainly, we don't want to lose him. We're very excited about this change, and that will be wonderful. And so we have now 2 openings for assistant principal at Weston High School, and as of today, we have over 77 applicants, because who wouldn't want to work at Weston High School, right, Ms. Canetta? So it's going to be a busy summer. Other new hires, we have a new reading interventionist, a new biology teacher. We have a new Chinese teacher under a new hire, Qing Li, who is going to be replacing our beloved May Balak, who has also chosen to retire. And then under resignations, Robert Benway, the mathematics teacher, he actually joined us mid-year, you might remember. We had a resignation, and he joined us mid-year and has decided to take another career path. We have a resignation of a speech pathologist. Our library para-educator, Paige Noonan, is actually going to be a student teacher. We have the resignation of Steve Fasoli, the band teacher, effective this month, as well as Megan Stewart, effective this month. And I would like to add that there are 3 openings in the music department, and we have between the band director and the strings that we have open 27 applicants. So we are certainly pleased and excited as we screen those candidates. Your question, Chad?
Yeah. Given I don't think it's an exaggeration for this board anyway to say that the outpouring of public comment regarding the music department, and feel no need to answer these questions if you're not prepared to. I know tonight was the first public comment, but I would be curious to hear, to my ear, the three themes that came up over and over were like the importance of music and the arts, period. Second theme is the challenges of the roles as they describe them, meaning is it too few people? Are they spread too thin? Is it too many things? I'm just sort of parroting back what it seemed to be the themes. And then also, if in fact those people really are, like there's no bringing them back, then there was obviously clearly a lot of talk about how do we find the exceptional people we want to put in these roles. So I do have questions about what we just heard tonight, but again, that might not be the time to get into that. But I'm curious how we can support the community in those efforts on the music and arts front.
Sure, I think I can make a few comments as it relates to the consent agenda. Last month, you may recall that there was a retirement. It's Eric Paul, Weston class of 1981. And Mr. Paul joined us. It was his second career, and joined us first as a strings and choral director at Weston High School, and then he was with Patty at the intermediate school most recently, and he retired. It was time. He certainly wanted to move on and do some other things, and so that was a retirement. Whenever anyone leaves the Weston Public Schools, we do have exit interviews. We gather data, and the most important, it depends on the position, who talks to that person. And I can say that, there have been conversations with all of these people at different levels. I know that I spoke specifically to Mr. Fasoli, who again is resigning after 10 years here, and why I certainly appreciate, because he taught my own daughter how to play the alto sax many years ago. His commitment to the program, again, there are personal reasons why people choose to do certain things. It can range from family commitments to commute to a variety of things. And so I am certainly, I share the sentiment of all the administrators that we are committed to finding the best possible candidates for these positions. Prior to Mr. Fasoli, I worked with Mr. LaRusso, who was with us for 35 years. He was the band director, and at that time there was another one that was resigning the very year I started here. So these are staff members that reach a lot of students based on the numbers in their program. They connect with them. They get involved. One of Steve's courses was jazz that took place in the evenings. So it's a different kind of connection, and the loss is felt, and we certainly understand that loss, how people feel when teachers decide to move on for their reasons. And at the same time, we are a small district. Since I've been here in 1985, there has always been a strings teacher that was shared between buildings because of the nature of the numbers involved in the program. Now, we are committed to the program. We've been talking about expanding the program, especially at the intermediate school, the instrumental program, and working towards that as we look to propose our next budget. As far as the commitment with the theater and everything, it is hard when there is not a huge involvement from other staff members. But I can say that there are staff members and plus members in the community that have held different stipended roles within our theater program, and we hope to continue to do that with them. So Weston has always been committed to the arts, and we will continue to do so.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that. And then I suppose this may be a question for budget season more than it is for today, but I thought one of the sort of other themes that we hear is everyone saying, like, lean on the community. There may be resources, or I don't know if that's accurate or not based on, what the sort of budget stipulations are, but to the extent the kind of implication about there's more work than really can be filled with this many roles? And is there a way to try to add headcount or add support of those sorts of things? Is that worth considering, come budget season?
Well, I believe part of it also is it's not so much budget as getting the word out and looking for other people that perhaps want to step up in positions. And I know, for example, I believe, correct, Dr. Henkel, positions, and Ms. Canetta, positions were already posted for the theater program. We have had a variety of people in those roles. It's not just staff. We've had parent producers. We've had parents help with theater tech that have done those roles. These are stipended positions. We've had costumers that have done the role that have been parents. We have, our very own Patty Falber, who has a background in music, works diligently on the intermediate school play because it brings her much joy. So I think it's a question of, people get also very, I don't know if the word is protective and possessive over what they're doing. And to release that sometimes can be a bit of a challenge, but we do work to it. In the fall, the drama a few years ago was directed by someone that also worked at Barlow. So I think it behooves us to, as one of the women spoke tonight about with HRs, getting the word out and trying to, take advantage of the capacity both within the town and the surrounding area and within our own staff, the people that might want to step up in these roles.
Okay. Yeah. I suppose the question is, so I suppose we should think about, are the roles as they currently exist sustainable and right-sized and things like that? And if so, if this is just, as it sounds like, kind of how life happens, and it's sort of timing, and so it looks like, oh my gosh, there's all this sort of turnover, but this is what happens in life. It still is a relevant question, I guess, are the roles right-sized for our community, and are there things we can do or our school district, I should say, and are there things we can do to support the arts program? So maybe those are like long-term questions we can keep in mind as we roll into next year.
Of course, and we will keep you abreast of our hiring. Thank you.
Other questions, comments on the consent agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move that the Weston Board of Education accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I actually do want to make a comment, and that is that Steve Fasoli, sorry, it doesn't change my vote, but Steve Fasoli he is really going to be missed, I have to say, and he really was a big part, just like Lisa's daughter, he was a really big part of my son's life too, and his passion for the alto sax and music as a whole, and I just had to have it on the record, so thanks, Steve.
Great, thanks, Sharon. Lisa?
Superintendent update. I have a couple of things that I'd like to talk about. One of them is the last outstanding contract is the contract for food service, which we received on Friday, the draft, and our council is looking at, and so we will be looking to move that forward when we can come to an agreement with Chartwells. They were the only company that put in a bid for the RFP. Excuse me. We all heard about the cell phone changes at the middle school and the intermediate school, and I'd like to thank the principals as well as Dan DeVito and Tina Henkel for helping to move that forward. And finally, the middle school project. As I said during my comments when I was reporting out on the district improvement plan, we passed a motion here to move the project forward, and that same week the first select woman put a pause on the project. So what does that mean? It means that the grant application will not be submitted for June of 2024. It will be put on hold, and looking towards, it's a once a year application. So we would be looking at June 2025 for the next window, if you will, to reapply. Any questions on that?
The question about the cell phone conversation, but if you're asking about the middle school.
Oh, I'm sorry. We can go back to cell phone and then go to the middle school.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the first thing I want to say is I want to say thank you, but not as a citizen. Like, thank you for this change, because obviously I've been a very outspoken proponent of this. But I want to thank the administration for responsiveness. And the reason I want to frame it that way is I've been on the board now, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. But you all are tremendously responsive. We had people ask about security, whether or not it was exactly the perfect mixture of things that were implemented. Almost $1 million of changes over the short term to address that. You've had questions about cell phone. That is now being pushed along in some way. I asked questions about digital literacy and digital education. That has been focused on. So I see the effort that you all put into taking measured, methodical, and responsive changes for the district. I think it's incredible, because one of the hardest things to do as an institution is to stick with what's working and also be nimble enough to change. So truly, thank you for being as responsive as you are. And if you've noticed, since we had that digital conversation a couple meetings ago, when I turned to all of you and I said, is this a problem? And you all said no, I have pretty much stopped talking about it since then. At the same time, well done, people, and also well done in terms of how you've been coordinating with other districts around here. So that's the first part. Thanks. The second is I heard loud and clear in these conversations that the school district does not want to be alone. It's a hard position to be playing policemen on phones when everybody is dealing with very addictive devices in their pockets. But I think one of the real eye-opening moments tonight was this person sits here and says we have 273 signatures. So I think that this conversation can go that way too. And if you read the memo from the middle school, the point was very much like, please don't make us do this on our own, because we need your help. So I think we, as a elected body, but also an administrative body, that we can be communicating back to the community, here's how we need your help and how you can be helpful. So I think that there is community support for that, to support the district and also the administration. But the third question really is, just because there's so much public comment about it, also, what are your thoughts on the sort of boundary of like up at middle school, but then high school separate, and then a bunch of public comment about that? I also read the Westport superintendent's letter about that. It was a very lengthy and interesting, and I thought pretty thorough document as well. So any education there to offer about high school and what public comment's asking about high school?
Chad, I'm glad you brought that up, because we did really think about it a great deal over the last few months. Do we have a problem? No, we don't have a problem. Should we be taking these away, especially little kids that are walking, things like that? I mean, I even struggled with that. We have, to what Dr. Henkel was talking about the collaborative relationship with districts, this has been a topic that the DERG A superintendents had been discussing over the last several months, and kind of bouncing ideas off one another, if you will, and really looking at it. And in talking with our administrative team and kind of reflecting on some of those comments, we think where we're starting is the appropriate place to start. And this is a change, and it will, the feedback that we got from the Yonder bag people, these bags that we're talking about and everything, said start in one school and do it well in one school. Like, we don't want to bite off more than we can chew, quite frankly. We're starting with the intermediate school and the middle school, and the middle school with those bags. That's a big change. And we want to get that down and do it well. Kind of like what we did with composting and recycling. We started in one school, and then it kind of spreads. So I think that our approach, as you said, methodical, is a sound one. Just today, I got another article from a parent. We print out these articles, we save them, we read them amongst ourselves, all of that. But, you know, in working our way up, high school is different, and I don't mean to speak for Ms. Canetta, but, you know, a 9th and 10th grader, it's very different than a 12th grader who's going to be going out to college with a cell phone. So we look a lot about gradual release of responsibility. So I think that by starting here, you know, it will get that much easier, if you will, as these middle schoolers move forward and see the benefits of putting their phones away and just being kids and being able to reinforce that. You know, it's not going to be popular, but, you know, the first month we'll be there with you, Mr. Doak, to kind of get it behind. We'll be there with you, Mrs. Falber, when we have to reinforce that on the bus they shouldn't be doing these things. But I do think that this approach is a sound one. And we also have the PTOs partnering with us in November, correct, Dr. Henkel? Because part of it is also education. It's you can get compliance, but we want to get more buy-in as to the why. And that's where Max Stossel, I think, is going to help us.
And the compared with other districts and things like that, the choice for Yonder versus like a bunch, you know, the final speaker was talking about, who asked for more time, I think, was talking about complete ban for the entire district. So the Yonder versus the total ban versus how Westport, Wilton, like what's the sort of calculus there on that approach?
Well, you know, one of the beauties of that approach is again, as the children get older, and then they're, you know, they leave, and then they're picked up, or they're going to other after-school activities, and this and that, they may need the phone, for example. So that was sort of the balance of what we thought, you know, to take a strong statement like in school, no, and out of school, you know, especially the high school students that drive and everything else, like they need much more access to their phone. The other piece of this is that at the middle school, there will be bags for the adults in the classrooms. Those are Velcro. They don't have to lock them with a magnet. But again, it's sort of the symbolic thing of, you know, being a role model for the students, which I think is pretty cool. And they're excited about it, right, Mr. Doak?
I got as many positive responses from the staff, I think, as we did from the parent community. And some of the staff had been sending me articles over the last several months as well.
Yeah, I hope, speaking of those emails, I mean, we've all been getting them, so I hope that as an administration you feel the support that you've heard tonight from the community, but also just the number of emails that we're getting on this. And it's also interesting timing with the Surgeon General literally today, and Steve, you mentioned this, but I think others have as well, putting a Surgeon General's warning on social media, that's pretty seismic. And I will read just one final paragraph out of it because it goes to what you all done, which is a direct quote from the essay that he wrote was, "One of the most important lessons I learned in medical school was that in an emergency, you don't have the luxury to wait for perfect information. You assess the available facts, you use your best judgment, and you act quickly." So I think it sounds like you're doing that, and good job.
Questions about the middle school project?
Peter, do you want to ask something? You're probably still listening. I mean, you've been shepherding it along, but maybe you're not. I don't know.
No, I'm still here. I'm going strong at 3 a.m. here in Edinburgh.
Oh my God!
But I have no
God bless
questions.
you.
I just been a little too quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
We continue. The EOC continues its work. We have some meetings coming up.
Yeah.
Should we move on to pupil personnel services and special education?
Sure. Hi again. I just have a quick update for tonight. We had our final parent meeting of the year on May 22nd. We talked about extended school year and inclusive practices in the Weston schools. It was well attended, the meeting. It's recorded. It's available on the website. And we're already beginning to think about possible topics for next year. As always, if families have feedback about topics of interest that they want us to address, please feel free to contact me directly. We're winding down the school year and we're ramping up our extended school year planning. Our extended school year programming starts on July 1st, so it's a quick turnaround.
for us. And I just wanted to share a special thanks to the assistant directors of PPS who have really worked tirelessly on all aspects of ESY planning to get this program up and running. So their efforts are appreciated and we're in good shape for summer. We are also working on hiring for the upcoming school year, and I look forward to continuing to share updates in our fall Board of Education meetings about who we've brought on board our team. That's it for tonight.
Questions? Phil?
So over the past several months, you guys may have noticed that we've had fluctuations with our end-of-year balances, which is typical for this time of the year as we kind of clean up and try to get to end the year strong. So where we are month over month is that we have a slight change with our projection. We have a $29,000 reduction from where we were last year. So our new projected surplus or unexpended balance is approximately $505,000. Just as a reminder, typically what happens with any unexpended amount, those amounts are returned to the town, and those are pretty much set to go to the town's unassigned fund balance. Just some quick highlights in terms of that accounted for the changes. Salaries, we have approximately a $48,000 positive change. Benefits, we have made a slight adjustments for benefits as it relates to OPEB. This will require further discussion with the Board of Finance tomorrow with the Board of Finance and with the town's finance director. There's a meeting tomorrow night with the Board of Finance. We will discuss the OPEB trust fund contributions for retiree premiums. So pretty much what the change month over month is that we have went from the gross to now showing the net. The net accounted for the retirees and Tier B's contribution for health insurance. Professional services, we have a positive savings there, primarily driven by legal fees, both in special education and district-wide, of approximately $42,000. We're making this change based on current trend and also historical trend for the remainder of the school year. Just want to point out as well, including in our balance for professional services is costs related to the middle school. Just a quick note, similar to what we have done so far, we have not made any expenditures relating to the middle school project. We have simply held money for the middle school project to see in the event that we would need to pay Tecton for their services for fiscal 24. As with all other projects, similar to what we had with security, this will ultimately need for a consent from the Board of Finance. Tomorrow night, we will have discussions with the Board of Finance about this, and we'll ultimately see if the Board of Finance will consent for us to do this, or if the Board of Finance will require that we will use capital funds to cover this project. Just as a reminder, we do have money earmarked in our FY25 budget that was earmarked to cover all costs relating to the middle school. So ultimately, we'll find out tomorrow night, and I will give an update to the board with our end-of-year final report in August, September. Other change that we have here is that we're going to continue to improve the fitness center. We have a $21,000 expenditure just to replace old equipment and to correct some safety concerns that we have. Want to point out here for revenue offset, excess cost reimbursement, there's a slight change of approximately $18,000 reduction. This is primarily driven by a lower than expected reimbursement rate from the state. Just as we discussed in our committee meeting, the grant or the funding for excess costs is a fixed amount. So as more districts request funding from the state, ultimately the amount that's divided up tends to be reduced. Historically, that average has been about approximately 70% for the past 2 years or so. We have been fortunate where we have received a reimbursement rate that is closer to 80%. This is important now is that this will have an impact for fiscal year 25. It could have an impact for fiscal year 25 and for future budget years. Ultimately, what will determine this are the needs of the students, because we first address the needs of the student, and then we kind of figure out what the reimbursement rate or what a reimbursement will ultimately be. but I just wanted to flag for the board that there is some concern here. And that is the update. Our dental claims are trending closer to historical trends. We will be slightly below budget for this year, which we accounted for in our benefits line.
Questions for Phil? Motion to approve the May 24 financial report?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the May 2024 financial report as presented.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Committee reports, the Communications Committee?
We've been very busy taking vacations. We'll be back to you in September. Stay tuned.
Cabe?
No updates.
Cooperative, CES?
Nothing to report on.
Ernie, curriculum?
Yep, we had our last curriculum committee meeting of the year earlier this month, and it was the annual review of academics, which presents each subject area in a K-12 lens. There's quantitative data and qualitative data and artifacts and student work, so it's a really great overview of all of the instruction and learning that's happening in the classroom, so check it out.
Well, I got to jump in. Bernie's doing a good job, but she's soft pedaling this because it was the first time that the curriculum committee final meeting has been done in this manner. It was a 2-hour meeting, and it was structured very interestingly because we got a walk through a whole bunch of stuff, but then we got actually about a half an hour to walk around and do deep dives with a whole bunch of the SILs, really get a very in-depth experience of what the SIL program is like. I know I'm talking a lot tonight, but people, there's lots of good stuff to talk about. So anyway, point being, people on the board, if you've not cruised by and looked at these things, like do a deep dive on this because this represents a lot of work, and you can really see some of the already the payoff of the SILs program. It's pretty incredible stuff to see. It's also remarkable qualitative deep dive into what our students are getting in these various curriculum areas, and that all happened live over a 2-hour meeting. It felt like a science fair meets a bake-off meets a celebration. So anyway, you should check that stuff out, people.
EOC, Peter? Okay. Finance and Operations, you heard Phil's report, and there'll be a number of projects that Mike DeMastro will be working on over the summer, the first of which is the track at the high school. Policy Committee, Sharon?
So we had so many second reads this time around, we decided to just take a day off. So we did not meet this last month. And then moving along into Weston Education Foundation, they have been very busy giving their awards, their year-end awards out, and to the various faculty. And then they also did the Le Chat Music in the Meadow bar on Saturday, which was a heap of fun, to raise some awareness about the Weston Education Foundation and also some funds. So that's pretty much what they've been up to.
Great. So the next scheduled meeting is in September. And any other items, pending items? Lisa? That's it? We have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's go.
Thank you. See you in September. Isn't that a song? Yes, okay, well, right.